Right on.
Look who we have here. What is up, everyone? It's Rich, Eric, and Dan. This is
Look
going
at
to
my
be.
head contrast in regards to you guys, though. Look at that. I'm more face.
I keep a safe distance. Too much Rich is too much.
That's too much.
Never enough.
Dude, this is going to be so fun.
I'm going to adjust this camera so it's not like half of my face at any given time.
What is up, everyone? So, Kelsey, I'm hoping is going to show up. He was trying to finish something yesterday, and he might be tied up in that. I did invite David Finch, and I also invited Canaan White.
Awesome.
So, Canaan might show up. And
savages, man. All these talented bastards.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if I'm curious if David Finch will pop in. So
we'll
he's very.
In the meantime, you guys are gonna have to do the heavy lifting, right? Between Rich and Dan, you guys are the front men of this particular band.
I don't even know what were we talking about.
We're just hanging out, man.
Explain it to you. So I had this idea a few weeks ago, and what I wanted to do was I wanted to gather a group of artists. So this was the preliminary idea for this, which was comic book artists that have drawn probably like less than 150 sequential pages, because there's this new group of people moving into comics that maybe have been doing it for like, I don't know, like how many books has Canaan drawn? How many books has someone like Rob Willis drawn? These are really, really talented artists that I'm just becoming aware of. And I thought what would be really interesting is to ask them, hey, so based on what you thought comic books was going to be like and all the preparatory work that you did to break into comics, what was the reality of it? Now you've drawn 50 pages of sequential art. You have 2 comic books out. What's that experience like? But this is a deeper extension of it, which is maybe you guys could reflect on what did you do to prepare to break into comics? What are some things that you felt kind of wasted time for you? That kind of, it's a casual conversation. I don't have any like list of questions, but any thoughts just based on the premise?
Oh yeah. I mean,
go ahead, take it, Dan.
Well, a lot of it has to do with context of time. You know, that's one of the things I've been learning a lot about. You guys know Chris Leitner, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was talking to me about he watched Star Wars with somebody that had never seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
And this person who'd never seen before is like a really highly sought after concept artist. And when they were watching Star Wars for the first time, they started laughing, you know, at that the stormtroopers look like toilets, and like and like how Darth Vader's head was really big, and you know, and I had mentioned this on my stream yesterday. I ran into some, I guess, young artists. I would gather that they're young.
Yeah.
I follow this Instagram account called Comic Book Pros. They always post really cool iconographic type stuff. A lot of it brings back memories. Sometimes you see stuff, you're like, whoa, what's that? I've never seen that Kirby piece, or I've never seen that whoever, you know. Yeah. And they had posted the cover of Hulk 345, which is, you know, that purple cover with him coming through the logo, you know, and McFarlane had drawn it. And this person's question is something like, I don't get it. Why do people like this shit McFarlane art? The Hulk looks like a walking avocado. Right. And I initially fell for the bait. I did the whole, you think you could do better? You know, because I took it personally because, you know, I know Todd and like he's a hero. But then it really brought me back to the idea of context, which was, you know, this was 1987. Nothing looked like it. There was no animation that looked like it. There was no video game, no toy, nothing looked like that, and it stood out and it was cool. Now taking that kind of idea of context into things, you know, I actually had something when I worked with your wife for the first time, Eric. She brought her portfolio in, right?
Yeah.
And I think we'd already hired her. She was doing revisions on this pilot, storyboard revisions. And I'm going through her portfolio. And I'm like, oh my God, you're so good. And I'm like, when did you do this? She's like, oh, I did that when I was 16. I'm like, how did you do this when you were 16? It's so accomplished. And she's like, oh, I watched YouTube tutorials. And I'm like, what? and then, I realized like there's a generation that had tutorials, right? Like we grew up on Bern Hogarth and George Bridgman, as far as anatomy books, and as far as like texts that we could go to as far as sequential storytelling. You had Will Eisner's book, and you had How to Draw Comics Marvel Way. So that's where we were coming from as far as how we were feeding ourselves. But as now I start going into a lot of comic book history, going back as far as I can into the 30s, I'm realizing that everybody's intention is different. We essentially, our generation is like two down or two generations away from the guys that were comic artists because they were fans of comic artists. Before that, these were guys that were doing a job, and they were looking at illustrators, and perhaps some of the earlier guys like Noel Sickles and Hal Foster and Alex Raymond, Milt Caniff. These were their like strip guys that they were looking at. But before that, it was like William Dana Gibson and like they were looking at illustrators. Frank Lloyd, or not Frank Lloyd, the Booth, the etching guy. So as it moved on, the intentions became different. Like when I was breaking in, I had this idea of John Byrne. John Byrne was, to me, was what a comic book artist was, and he was on the Today Show, and he was on Time magazine, the cover of Time magazine.
Wow.
And then awesome. And this is like 1986, 87, 88. And then of course a guy like Rob is on a Levi's commercial. Guys like Todd are in People magazine, 2-page story on him.
My mom knows who Todd McFarlane is. It's so funny.
So like our generation, like long way around answering your question, I knew I needed to have drawing ability. I knew I needed to understand storytelling. I also had a hard-on for aesthetics, like the way something looked. And eventually, Eric, I want to talk to you about dynamics. Like I remember I posted something on one of your Instagrams about like teach me this chaos. There is a crucial ingredient to your art that I feel my stuff is severely lacking in. I know how to identify it, but I don't know how to cultivate it. So I'm sure when I have you on my show one of these days, or I come on your show, we'll get into that.
That'll be so much fun. That'll be so much fun, dude.
But going back to like what I worked on, I used to do drills, and it was funny to hear McFarlane say the same thing in one of his interviews, but I used to do drills where I would just go through comics and copy arms for a week, copy legs for a week, copy faces for a week, copy torsos, and then put all that knowledge together and start copying poses. I'd gone through How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way like 20 million times.
You wore it out, man, is what you're saying.
I've got I still have my original copy. It's taped up.
Holy cow, that's awesome.
But my intention was I was gonna break in and I was gonna make my mark, but there was poison in them their hills along with the gold.
Right.
And some guys, I'm not sure if you guys were susceptible to it. And I think Rob Liefeld brought it up on a podcast, and Marat Michaels and I talked about this a little bit. But I feel that the advent of a ranking system like the Wizard Top 10 was super poisonous for us young guys, because we not only wanted, it stopped being about doing good work. And it became more about doing work that would get Wizard to notice us. Which is fucking ridiculous. I'm able now to.
But you were talking earlier about context, though, right, Dan? And I think that is also important in regards to the last point that you made, which is a version of time in context to what was happening back then. That was super important, but it doesn't make it any less poisonous as you described it, right? But like for that generation, that meant something to people, right? Independent of that, you can take a look at that experience and go like, ultimately, it didn't make me a better craftsman, right? It just made me somebody else. That's
there was another factor going on, which there was this sort of journeyman, apprentice, master, craftsman hand-me-down that used to happen. It's like Al Williamson used to be John Prentice's assistant when they were doing the strips, and he brought him up, and Terry Austin used to do backgrounds for Neil Adams, and you had this journeyman like I'm going to help you. And this sort of thing, but our guys, whether it be Jim or Mark or Rob, we came in and they bestowed upon us this sort of thing. But I also noticed this sort of giant wall come down because there was this loathing from the outside, especially the traditional guys, towards the image guys. Yeah, you would hear. I remember, I grew up in the Bay Area, and I was the sweet kid that everybody let come over. So I used to go over to Tom Orzechowski's house, sure, or visit Trina Robbins, and like I was part of the Bay Area culture. And they would say things like, "How could you like that McFarlane? How could you like that Liefeld? Liefeld, you only like him because it was like this hatred."
Yeah, no, I don't know if that's exclusive. I think it's generational for sure. And you just like substitute the new guys coming in as now the old guys, and there's a new set of guys coming in. But it takes an active effort not to get into that curmudgeon space. I know I'm guilty of it. Right? I'm like, oh, what the hell is that thing? Because that fundamentally, like in these days, and I don't want to turn into a bitch session, but like no, it's these days, what I see a lot that used to be pounded into our heads as we were trying to break in is like as heavy-handed as you can possibly be. Do as much storytelling as possible. Yeah. Right. Well, learn your storytelling, dude.
We didn't have that. We didn't have that. Like, well, I don't know. Like at Extreme,
I did. I got beat up over the head with it.
You guys had a different studio. Like it's really weird because, like, somebody asked me to explain the differences between studios, and I said, Wildstorm was like a high end Acura, like the highest end Acura, whereas Top Cow was like a Ferrari, and then I think of Extreme Studios as like a monster truck.
Like accurate, yeah, sure,
yeah. So like I came from that place, and I know Rob was. I don't know if the word is bitter, but like some of the stuff that I inherited as far as attitude wise of going, yeah, fuck that, came directly from that attitude.
It's a cultural space, right?
Yeah, so good storytelling was key, but it was always through Rob. It wasn't clarity of context, which real storytelling is. Sure, like to me, it's context and design.
Yeah,
Rob was 100% about design. Like, and you can see it, bombastic shapes that took you through a page and out.
Yep.
And sometimes shit didn't have to make sense.
Yep.
So I don't know that. Like,
hey man,
that's
how are you
what
doing?
I'm saying.
How do you pronounce your name? Is it Canaan?
Canaan.
Canaan. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well, Eric.
I don't know if we've ever met officially, formally, but my name is Eric Canete. How are you, dude?
I'm doing good, man. I've seen your work I think you're on Twitch too. Are you on Twitch?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. A little while ago. Canaan, hello.
Eric was crushing it on Twitch.
Yeah, he was.
And then I got super bored.
Great.
Well, they changed the format or something, right? And it kind of annoyed you a little bit.
Well, it was a whole lot of, again, I'm not going to throw shade in that, I'm not going to go deep into the shade. I'm going to throw in that direction, but it's got a lot to do with the hypocrisy in regards to their terms of service.
Right.
So I had to step away. That wasn't the primary reason. The primary reason was Mark Millar was like, hey, I'm going to do Chrononauts 2. get your ass to work. And I was like, oh, right. That's the only time I have to do that is during Twitch streaming days or Twitch streaming hours. So I left. Hey, Kelsey, how are you?
The king of cartoons.
Look what I did, Kelsey. Wednesday super special.
What's up, y'all? Eric Canete's on cam. Holy smokes.
So much.
Special occasion.
So much awesomeness right here.
Like the Brady Bunch.
Okay, good. I don't have to do any more talking. You guys got it. All right. You guys rock the stage. I'll be in the back turning the lights on and off. I'm okay.
We all love you, and we're here to support you. We want to talk to you about your drinking.
Yeah, that's why we're surrounding you like a horseshoe.
I was
Put him
jealous.
right in the middle.
I see all these guys here with my man, and I got to come in and defend him. Defend myself. What y'all doing in here with my man?
So
man.
I explained to them. So the original idea for this, Kelsey, was that I wanted to get comic book artists that had not drawn a lot of books together, and for them to discuss sort of their preconceived notions of the preparation that they made to get into comics, then kind of the reality of what you're really faced with when you have to start drawing stuff. But I'm still kind of getting to know everyone, but I definitely had my eye on Canaan because Canaan's phenomenal artist. But
I'm humbled to be in this room. There's some magic happening in here. I feel like I just snuck in here.
I thought when Rich said guys who hadn't done that much comic book work, I was like, oh, I'm perfect for this shit. I'm in.
Yeah, exactly.
He said a certain number earlier. He was like, guys who have done maybe like 100, 150 pages tops. I'm like, that's me too, man. So let's talk about my personal experience at 150 pages.
So let me ask Canaan that question though. So Canaan, how many full comic books have you drawn that are actually like published right now?
Why do you say it so accusatory? Why do you say like how many?
Why haven't you done more?
What are you doing with your time, young man?
Let's see. Son of Shannon. That was a graphic novel.
Okay.
Harlem Hellfighters. That was like over 200 pages. I did 11 issues of Uber, which was a book by printed by Avatar Press.
Okay.
It's kind of a flip on World War II. What else? Of course,
Garth Ennis, because doesn't he write for Avatar? Does a lot of that World War II stuff?
He did. I'm not sure if he still does, but I know he did a couple of. I think it was like I can't remember what the name of it, but the Harlem Hellfighters was with Max Brooks. Awesome writer, of course. Everybody knows who Max Brooks is at World War Z. Kieran Gillian did an amazing job on Uber, and then. The Son of Shannon, the writer or the co-producer of that basketball comedy with Kyrie Irving in it. I forget the name of it. It just came out. Oh, Uncle Drew. Yeah.
I like how he's done so few books he can remember all the names to them. That's
then like I said Uber, and then a host of just indie stuff. Death Shroud, which was one that just came out.
That was hot. I just got that one.
Thank you. Written by
because you really draw well. Like it's like
you got that's it.
I literally just got it, and it is smoking hot. I didn't know you did this, to be honest with you. I just bought it on a whim, and then I was looking through it, and I was like, "Oh yeah!"
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome book.
So let me ask you one more question, Canaan, and then we'll sort of like people can direct the conversation they want because I was curious. You do those like I remember I had asked you a few weeks ago how long it was taking for you to do those daily sketches. So do you do the daily sketch on top of actually working like a full day's work each day?
Yeah. It's for me, man. For one, it's therapy. I mean, it breaks me out of the norm. Pages, man, as y'all know, is a grind. I mean, it's grunt work. So, pages, covers, pinups and stuff like that don't take as long. But for the daily sketches, man, I feel like it's something I have to do because I get an image in my head. It's like, I got to create that. And it's like, I don't want to lose it. So it's like taking a snapshot and I get that out like right away, and it doesn't take long and it just kind of gets me in the zone of creating something. So, I mean, I try to fit that in on top of, everything else I do, man. And it definitely helps getting the juices flowing. And too, man, like it's almost like, like one of the things I wanted to really do this year was build up my Instagram and, you know, my social media. And so it's almost like, as I say, drawing for the gram. You know, it's like, you know, those are pics and stuff, man. They're not, you know, business. Most of them aren't business related or clientele. It's just, you know, something to give somebody some eye candy so they can go to my gallery and be like, oh, that's dope, you know, kind of thing. So
what's your Instagram? What's your Instagram? I need to follow it, man.
Canaan 02, CAANAN
02. Now, I learned something from Richard. I forget where he heard this from, but he says you don't do anything unless you get paid 4 different ways for it. So
Three times.
He just one-upped you, Rich, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
You say 3, Kelsey says 4.
He's a very famous comic book artist, but it's not Jim Lee, to be clear, but it's a close friend of mine. But yeah, he said, he goes, man, I won't draw anything if I can't get paid for it 3 times. And I was like, that's an interesting theory, my friend.
Yeah.
It makes sense, though, you know?
You think about that and you're like, and you contextualize it to the person who says it, and you're like, makes sense. Yeah, it totally makes sense.
They're generally successful people. Same thing kind of thing. I'm like, I just want to draw,
like,
man.
It's like me standing next to Elon Musk, and he's like, man, I'm going to launch a rocket tomorrow. And I'm all like, yeah, me too.
So there was a question in the chat. I'm going to put it up so everyone can read it. So it was, I've lost my desire to draw. The game has changed and not in an old timer's favor. Where do I find any hope as a traditional artist?
I'll take that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
The oldest fart in the room.
Where did your desire stem from? That's number one. I talked earlier about some of where our desires, at least some of my contemporaries at the time, we wanted to be hot. We wanted heat, and we wanted to be on that wizard list. And that
Fame.
that was like a major driver. And when that went away, I remember feeling like complete out of love with comics and drawing all together.
Yeah.
And then I got into doing storyboards and just did it as a utility. I was basically a tool, you know.
That's what I keep saying.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff. I did some directing and all that, but it wasn't until I was directing where I found I was drawing less that I started realizing I missed drawing. And then I thought about a lot of the things that got me to where I wanted to draw, which was a feeling.
Yep.
And, you know, like when I remember first seeing John Byrne's work, I remember first seeing Frank Miller on the cover of Dark Knight 2, and how intensely I felt about wanting to create that out of my own self. And then this mission came to be that my main desire came to be, how can I most efficiently get the things in my head out on paper, and how can I make the things on paper as close as possible to the things I see in my head? And then now it's, you know, like I mentioned to Eric, it's also how to like maximize the thing you see in your head. But basically I changed what my desire was. And I also found the root of where my desire was, and my spinner rack back there is filled with the comics of those days. I have a couple of playlists that I listened to from those years, my hunger years. Yeah. That if I was to put that playlist on, crack open a comic from 1988, and just sit there for 5 minutes, it's almost like Eye of the Tiger playing.
Right.
You know? So that my advice is like, find the true root of why you did it in the first place and nurture that. Don't fuck all this like, oh, there's no love for the old school. Make them love it, you know? Make them love it. I'm a fan of rap, and like people are trying to say how boom bap is dead, and I'm like, yo, you put a good boom bap track on, I'll fucking nod my head into my knees, and it doesn't matter, you know. So it's not dead; it's alive and well. Yeah. So go find the root of your desire, nurture it, and do you. You know, that's it.
I got this theory that these days there is no fad, there is no style fixation. There's not like the permeating Jim Lee style. There's not like a certain hat is in fashion today. I mean, literally right now you can do anything you want, and there's an audience for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see trends as much as I used to. It's like anything and everything goes.
Yeah. I mean, that what you said, Dan, is your why, like discovering your why, and that's something, man. As an artist, I said I'm 43. I mean, I've been doing drawing for a long time as well. Even though it wasn't published, man, it's still you putting grind to the grindstone, man. But my why, sometimes you have to reinvent what that is, because like you said, certain things change. Your focus, your desire, and so what kind of helps me just keep creating is, for one, I recently did a style shift. So it was like, it was hard at the time, but then it was also like an easy transition. And so it was like really scaling back to some of the stuff that I used to do. And so that kind of reinvigorated me. And then, like I said, making sure I wanted to increase my, my social media in regards to my Instagram. So that also became a motivator, and then of course work and things like that. But you're to the individual who's talking about his traditional, sometimes you have to revamp your focus. I remember like early on, my a lot of the art that I looked at was more like the traditional 90s stuff, Jim Lee, Robin Liefeld. I'm from that pedigree. I was like, I was raised in the 90s, man. So, the Magnificent Seven, as they call it, the image guy.
Magnificent.
I think all of us are in this group.
Really.
Yeah. So, but around 2000.
Oh, snap. I got to know more about that one. Hold on. Go ahead.
I kind of got frustrated, in around 2000. So it was like, I asked the guy, he's like, man, he said, you just need to take all that stuff that you did, set it aside, and start looking at different stuff. And so what started to happen, I started looking at Alex Ross, started looking at Brandon Anderson, the guy that did Astro City, Rags Morales. And I think that's the one that kind of opened my eyes, because he did, I think it was called Identity Crisis.
Okay.
And he used actors. He used, like for Elastic Man, he used Danny Kaye. Somebody else, he used Clark Gable. And I was like, man, I didn't know you could use actors, for.
Oh yeah, that's helpful, getting a handle on the faces and stuff. Consistency.
Brian Hitch did that. Hitch did that on Ultimates.
And so then I started going into like people like Ivan Reyes, and then John Cassidy, and all these different types of more realistic, and then eventually settled on Mike Deodato and Mike Perkins. Those are kind of like my Bible, as far as how I started doing the shading. And so then I shifted back to Travis Charest recently, and so getting back more to line weights and stuff like that. And so that, like I said, sometimes you gotta reinvent your influences as well, and I think that'll help spark your creativity.
It's like a brand new toys at Christmas time. You played with all these toys all year. And now here's a new batch of toys, and you're like, oh shit.
Isn't Rags a hell of an inker too? Doesn't he do that like sweet, kind of like thin brush style, or am I thinking of his inker, Rags?
Rags,
I can't remember.
He
inks, right?
I think so. I was like, I remember him working for either Valiant or Defiant, and doing real stuff back then too. Mike Deodato is great. He's so badass. And
hold up. Okay, wait. Magnificent Five. List off the names, man. What are you talking about? Who are the two you leaving? Don't act all frozen up there. I'm putting you on the spot. Look at him. He's frozen in fear. All right, forget you.
I think he's genuinely frozen.
Oh yeah. All right. I retract the question. You don't have to specify the actual five that you're talking about. You can come back.
That's a great one to be frozen on, though, man.
Yeah, I know.
I want to give him my account number with that face on.
You ever have surprise influences pop up? Because like for me on Crystal Planet, Kelsey kind of knows where I'm going with this a little bit. But I started drawing a little bit like J. Scott Campbell, just kind of out of the blue, like some of my stuff started to remind me of that. And so I went like, all right, if this is what's coming out for this particular story, I'm going to look at like J. Scott Campbell. So I started checking out Danger Girl, and then I was looking at Wildsiders. And Wildsiders kind of in a weird way is a little more parallel to like the story that I'm doing. But that was very unexpected to me. Like it was not a consideration at all when I went into the book. And it just kind of happened, you know, where I went like, all right, this might actually help me. Do you guys ever find that?
I do. I know for, you know, one of my biggest influences, even though I don't draw it, if at all, but I love it, is anime, especially Studio Ghibli. You know, the backgrounds and the colors and the fluidity of their characters and all those different influences. And then, you know, some of the, you know, I'm kind of like a '90s anime guy, so like Hunter D, Bloodlust, you know, Record of Lotus,
Ninja Scroll.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kawajiri.
You know, stuff like that. So, you know, a lot of the early mech stuff, you know, like so a lot of that stuff I still kind of pull from. You know, recently I was doing like some cyberpunk drawings.
Oh,
so
cool.
a lot of them had mechs and tech and stuff like that. And so a lot of that stuff still finds its way, even in the way like I draw certain facial features. It's still like there's anime elements in there. So that to me is kind of like it's a 180 from the Western style, but it's still in there. So and I love anime. If I could draw it more often, I would. But I still have I love the Western style too. So I leave it to my kids. I let them do the anime stuff.
What about you, Eric? Do you ever find any surprise influences coming out, or maybe not influences, but like you ever draw anything and go, "Wow, this kind of reminds me of something maybe like Adam Hughes would do, or something unexpected"?
I'm boring, man. No, I mean, I swear to God, like listening to your guys' freaking experiences, I'm like, that's fascinating. Talk more about that. First of all, you're asking me to be self-aware enough to identify whether or not I'm pulling from an artist that I can possibly like steal from. And I am definitely not self-aware enough, right?
That's good though. I mean, some of us are way too self-aware.
I just, what I'm dealing with right now is a deadline and a personal, you know, a self-imposed one. And I'm, you know, aiming towards that. I'm barreling towards that. But if I run into anything that makes me go like, actually it's a, you know, whenever I post the pages online, that's when somebody points stuff out, you know, to be like, oh yeah, this kind of reminds me of that. And I go, yeah, exactly. That's awesome.
I remember the Iron Man
good
letter.
For me. You know what I mean? Like, but it's never an act. I don't know if it's an active effort. And most importantly, I don't think, again, I'm self-aware enough to pick it out for myself.
So you just brought up a very interesting thing, and I think I think this is a great thing for all of us to kick around. Since we're all working on create our own books, although I am doing something for heavy metal, the self-imposed deadline that you said, Kelsey and I have been talking about this a lot lately. And we both think that it's incredibly important that you kind of have a gun to your head as an artist, because it's going to create some spontaneity into your work, a little bit of excitement. It's going to make you out of your comfort zone, and in a way, that's when sometimes we perform better. So, what do you guys think? Do you create deadlines for yourself?
I think
you're
it's
right.
If you're working on something, it's got to be freaking. That's critical.
Yeah. If you don't have time to think, you just do, right?
Yeah, there's no end. If you don't give yourself an end, you'll just keep going.
Some people, and for me, I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but it allows me to forgive myself for all the sins that's happened on that page that I just finished.
True.
I got in total. I just tallied up the pages for this mini series, and it's going to go into 220 some odd plus.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't have time to look at that panel. I really don't. If your support for my body of work is all predicated on how much I effed up that hand, we are not talking the same. Like I'm broadcasting the wrong signal to you. You know?
Look, I got a philosophy though. If you're like, there's so many times where I've spent all that time making that perfect hand, you know, and then I put it out there, and people are like, it's pretty good, you know, pretty good. Yeah. I'll spend like 10 minutes doing something, and it's like the greatest thing they've ever seen. And I'm like, what the you know? Like,
my attitude, and I don't know if it's the same for all of you guys, and Dan and I kind of touched on it earlier, is that I primarily focus on storytelling. Everything else has a tiering of like importance to me. Sure, draftsmanship is right up there because you're going to try to draw something that looks pretty. But if the story doesn't make any sense, if I lose you in like if I lose you panel to panel, page by page, I've already effed up my job as a comic book artist. You know, it's critical to me that you know where everything is going, right? And one of the challenges that I run into as a well, in regards to being a comic book illustrator, and especially with the subject matter that this is tackling, this isn't your typical, there's a cape on a guy and there's a belt on him. You kind of understand what that anatomy looks like, right? I start introducing, Star Wars aliens, and people aren't used to seeing that anatomy on things. And if I lose you on like, well, that's the head, right? If my metric is if at any moment I can predict somebody's going to look at this image and go like, I don't know what the heck is happening. I got to go back there and either simplify that design, simplify that layout, or double down on clarity of storytelling.
Yeah.
Right. And so that helps facilitate me not worrying about, oh man, I got to get this page perfect. Right. I got to move on to page 50, 60, 100,
That's definitely true. Like it's funny because, I'll use my kids, like, do you understand this? And they'll have no words on it, no dialogue, whatever. And if they can get it, then I've done good. It's like if your child or somebody young can understand what's happening in the panel from panel to panel, then you've done good. Like if it's confusing, if they're like,
that's a great point. 'Cause I showed my uncle who'd never looked at a comic book in his life. I mean, he played sports since he was a little kid, so he just had no reference. And I showed him a JLA cover I did, which I was doing in a very anime style. And I totally ripped off this explosion from Big O and stuck it in the background. And I was like so proud of myself because it looked like this cool explosion and I didn't even have to make it up. I was all like, I'm going to rip this off and get away with it. Anyway, so I show my uncle and he's like, well, it's neat. I don't really understand what I'm looking at. I'm like, well, that's like an explosion. And he's like, like he couldn't understand it. And, that was like a huge learning experience for me to like, make sure they can read what the hell it is. That's such an important part of this.
For sure. There's somebody had asked me that question a little while ago while I was streaming that, when I approached Chrononauts 2, I actively tried to not break the panel. Like you can count on two hands how many times I broke the panel in that, and the aspect ratio is as close to 16:9 as possible. Right. Because and it basically did it as storyboards. Right. It was rare that I did something super fancy that some guy breaks the panel, because those are these I refer to them as like comic book center hieroglyphics. Like if you know how to read it, it makes a whole lot of sense to you. But to your example, Kelsey, you gave it to the layman. They're like, that's kind of neat. I don't know in what context, why that's important, maybe somewhere in the back of their mind, somewhere in their subconscious, they understand because that picture is bigger than this picture. That's probably, a really important thing. But for me on Chrononauts 2, I actively didn't break panel because I wanted to lower that barrier to entry. Should you ever want to give that comic book to somebody, they can follow it picture by picture by picture. And it's like, it is the most vanilla way of like telling a story. But if you can make it work, it's really profound, right? You can put like to your point, Canaan, you can put in front of your kids and like, oh, this guy's punching this guy. I don't have to worry about why this fist is crossing into panel 2, 3, and 4, like growing up, you get these like how-tos, right? And I remember the specific, like, oh, in comic books, you got to do like left to right, then Z back down, and then left to right again. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's really cool because you're a kid, right? You're like this bird in a nest, mouth wide open, just waiting for information to be shoved down your throat. You get more notches on your belt, you kind of go like, yeah, that's BS. I need to be able to have the reader get to it,
But let's be honest, though, as kids checking out these comic books, how important was that really? Like when we were looking at it going, this is awesome. I was worried about what it was like.
I'm not saying that it's not important. What I'm saying is like, it's good. Like what happens sometimes when you get pieces like that, depending on where you are in your art journey and getting better as an illustrator and comic book artist, is that you almost take it as like fucking biblical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's never contextualized with like, that's cool. That's being like, data informed, but not data driven. You know what I mean? Like,
I got
that's good to know.
Based on that, I got a question for all you. Sorry to take this away from you.
No, that's all right, man.
I'm curious because with that, is there a point where like you start off young, fresh, you're just trying everything in the book, like I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And then you start getting them rules in there. You start getting those editorial, adjustments. And then you start getting stale. Like I find myself trying to get out of a very stale place right now. And
that's why you do your own book.
Well, then you're trying to go back to that early excitement of your youth, where I could try anything, And do you guys have that problem? Do you guys find yourself getting stale because of the rules at all, or what?
For me, it wasn't necessarily because of the rules, as it was just when you're doing so many things for other people, sometimes you get lost in the sauce. And it's important. It's almost, they say, take time for yourself. Take time to create something with no strings attached for you. Just make something cool. And like I said, even if you're on deadlines and you're on those different things and stuff's pressing, and things are always going to be pressing. They're always going to be code red for a lot of people. But you have to take time to create something just because. And that keeps you fresh, man. That keeps you not getting, attached to, because sometimes you'll have the writer, man, and they're so open that it's hard to like create anything, and then you got other ones that are so anal retentive that it gives you no creativity. So knowing that, it's important, man, to lend time to just draw something free, draw something open, draw something weird, express yourself, draw something that doesn't even have any boundaries and, all those different things, because it is important. As artists, if you don't feel creative or you feel strangled or constricted, man, it spills over into your work. Panels suffer.
Hey, can I introduce something to like a thought experiment to everybody in the room, but especially to what Kelsey just asked about, right? The issue that we're running into now, and I love the reference that you said, like X amount of years ago, it used to be draw everything, and now all the rules start coming into play. I don't know if that's unavoidable. And the reason why is because back then, I suspect, and maybe you're different, but like I didn't know shit. So everything was out open, right? The more knowledge that you build into your head, the more eventually all that knowledge is going to start pouring out into paper. And to say, hey, I'm going to actively stunt that knowledge and go back to the 20-year-old version of me, you already have what that information looks like for 24-year-old version.
Yeah, what's that old thing? Know the rules so you can break the rules?
Sure. And it's you're never going to be as unconstrained as you were X amount of years ago, because you know so much more, even the 20-year-old version of yourself.
They say that's the flaw of punk rock. That the problem with punk rock is the longer that bands play punk rock, they get better at it, and then they lose the magic of the first 2 years.
There's a lot of guys that draw like that. There are a lot of artists like that too.
It's like, shit, you learn too much, dude. Like your stuff is boring now. Or
the only thing regarding what we're discussing that I've ran into that was not from the outside, obviously we get feedback from our editors or our collaborators to kind of rein things in, especially if we're not the pilot of the ship. But the one thing that I ran into, and I found it working on He-Man with Rich, is coming from comics. I didn't really care so much. It was all about, like I said, dynamics and the excitement on the page. But then going and storyboarding and working in directing for a good solid 15 years, you start understanding cinematic rules. And Eric, I know you know this because you do a lot of boarding too, but like you don't want to break the 180 rule. And like there's all these sort of like, there's these standbys that as long
dangerous in comics.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like, now I go through comics and I'm like, he broke it, because like they're literally trying to move the eye, right? Like, why would you go to the other side of the camera right now? Or the other thing that was really tough that I found, especially like working from full script, is, you know, when you do storyboards, you are really focused on telling a story in that frame, but who talks first doesn't matter, because when it's on a screen, it's audio. You don't have to go, the guy on the left has to talk first, you know, because of reading the direction in which we read. So then I found having the like filmic knowledge crossed with the, you know, who's talking first in this writer's script ended up limiting a lot of the way I saw things. You know, like naturally, like the cinematic way would be to have the camera here, but suddenly now that person who's talking first is over here, and they can't, because you don't want that word balloon to have a fucking trail going all the way across the page. Right. So now you have to kind of creatively move that person over, and it may not be the shot that you initially thought of, because again, 15 years storyboarding, you don't.
No, baby, you just raise that camera up.
Yeah, right, right.
Put the balloons, man.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. But
hold on, I got something the chat said I got to address real quick. Alfin says David Finch said he's the best storyteller in comics.
No. You have to go. No. David Finch did not say he was. If you go back up, the guy said Greg Capullo. Okay. The guy said really, and Dave Finch said he was the best. So Dave Finch said that Capullo was the best.
I was about to say the ego on that guy. Clearly, I'm the best.
No, I would have still agreed with it. No, anytime somebody claims that they're the best, I'm all like, yeah, you are. You are absolutely.
You keep taking that train.
I'm into it. I'm into it. Keep driving the bus. I'll be on there with you. But
I am, for that question that popped on the screen, for my tastes and money, strictly storytelling, a guy that does quiet very well. He does intimate very well. He does big really well, and he does power really well. John Romita Jr. Hands down my favorite storyteller in comics, because that's a cool choice. Yeah, he's got a bit of he's got a little Frank Miller in him. He's got a little bit of Jack Kirby in him. I feel like his storytelling is the total package. It's never unclear. Big is always big, and he always builds the context up to that big by going a little bit small right before. It's almost like that fling shot before it fires. So John Romita Jr. is my favorite.
Who's yours, Eric? Do you have a favorite, or like someone that you think is a master?
Well, right now I'm compelled to really, really love Dave Finch, because he apparently is like the fucking best, right? Yes. And then I'll go.
I have never met
this.
Hey, word.
Hi, fellas.
Ethan, how are you, man?
Awesome.
Good. Hey, Eric. Nice to get to speak to you.
Yeah, right on, dude.
Welcome.
They just said who my favorite storyteller is in comics, and somebody in chat was saying that Dave Finch says that he was, and I was agreeing with them.
Yeah.
I think it's good to do that, man. Artists need their delusional egos. All of us do, you know.
I've never met Ethan or talked to him. Ethan, so since we're talking about storytellers, like, are you still a big fan of Brian Boland?
As a storyteller, no. I mean, he's good. He's fine.
Yeah. Who's on your target reticle, Ethan? Who's the guy that you're like, dude, I love reading this guy's stuff?
I'm John Byrne. He is meat and potatoes. Everything is super clear.
That's great.
And I mean, for me, I believe in erring on the side of clarity at all times in storytelling.
I gotta go. Ethan's basically saying everything that I'm saying. I'm not needed anymore. I'll talk to you guys later.
I gotta meet you.
That's interesting.
But no, John Byrne's a good one, man.
John Byrne is up there.
That's such a tough question.
But let me say this to that point that Ethan is saying, right? Like, there was a generation of comics where they were really opting for clarity. There was an editorial staff strategically built, right? An editorial staff strategically built just to look through those pages and go, I can't read what's happening, right? Yeah. Because in that generation of John Byrne, and we're talking like the range is pretty wide from John Byrne to like Walt Simonson, stylistically, those two guys are pretty far apart, right? But the storytelling was still pretty on point, right? And you could get very easily lost in a Walt Simonson drawn book but you never did, because I believe that there's an editorial staff that pulled them back and said, I can't read this, right? It was important, I think, culturally at that time, to really opt for as much clarity as possible, regardless of style, right?
Yeah, John Byrne's panels had air in them. He felt free to just establish, reestablish.
Especially the snow one, when he didn't have anything in any panels in the entire book. Talk about breathing room.
I was totally influenced by that all through my run on Green Lantern. It's like the background's going to be space. It's going to be painted in by the colorist, and here's a tiny little figure in there. Look how vast space is.
You know what? He's still doing it. Have you guys seen that sort of unofficial thing that he's been doing? Have you guys seen pages from that?
Looks good, actually.
That's as classic as that can get. Yeah.
So, Ethan, you touched on something that's very, very fascinating. And I know Travis Charest doesn't get a lot of credit as probably like a virtuosic storyteller, but everybody likes the way that he draws.
But he blows.
But you said that sense of
he's an amazing artist, but I will put it out there.
Kelsey. Wait, let me finish my point though. But Ethan said John Byrne's stuff has a sense of air to it, and for the whole time that I've ever been a fan of Travis's art, literally when I'm reading it, I feel like I'm getting like a cool breeze of like fresh air, and there's just this sense of space that I think honestly is one of the magical sort of X factors that his work has, is that I feel like I can enter that space. It sounds corny and kind of weird, but I've never heard anyone talk about the air like that.
I kind of feel that way about Koipel, actually. Olivier does small figures, and he has like background. Well, sometimes it's engulfed in smoke and stuff, but he pulls back a lot.
Just to show the environment. He sucks you into the environment there. And then by just having his figures small in an enormous space, double page spread.
Right.
The temptation is to do the opposite of that. And I said this on I was talking about one of my Green Lantern books, and one of my nobody taught me a fucking thing. I can't get people to give me. I try to get Kelsey to give me some tips, but he doesn't teach me nothing. Frank Whiteley was really good to me. He spent a lot of time on the phone with me, and just simple ways of reprogramming your thought. And he'd say, "You see what you did here, Ethan? Like, you had to draw this enormous spacecraft, and so you drew a double page spread with an enormous spacecraft filling up the whole thing. And you know what? It doesn't look big. Just because it took up all of the space on the page doesn't mean that you've conveyed how big this thing is." He said sometimes when you want to draw something and convey that something is big, you draw it small. You draw the environment around it, give it scope. So if the spaceship is gigantic, let's draw it small, and then let's draw all of New York City underneath it so that you see how big it is. But you know what I mean? Just relative scope is all you really need to do. And that's, I think that's coming across a lot more in more modern artists, more modern comic book artists who do provide that breath of fresh air that Richard's talking about. You can breathe in their panels.
Quietly is definitely a master of scale. I mean, every shot is like a lesson in scale.
Virtuoso. He's Mozart, for this generation of comic artists, in my opinion.
Yeah,
this is a little off the subject, but something I learned from him is illustrating weight. Like he did this. He did this. Batman goes to Scotland story. And there's this bit where this thug has this, what do you call those things with the big metal, like a hammer, like a big metal hammer or whatever. Yeah, like a sledgehammer. And he's about to hit Batman, and he throws it over his shoulder, but you could feel it like pull his whole body over before he like swings it at Batman. Yeah. And it was like, holy hell, that looks heavy. I never really thought about that kind of thing.
And to that point, Kelsey, anytime somebody asks, like, why do I do my characters look stiff, right? If I'm ever lucky enough that somebody asked me, hey, give me feedback on this drawing. Like everything about the drawing looks great. Everything is accurate. The lighting is accurate. The anatomy is accurate. What they're not landing is weight. right? They don't know, like that character doesn't know how to populate that space correctly, because like depending on where your foot is standing, your entire body, the proportion of it shifts, right? And to the example that you give, right? Like the moment a guy starts swinging a 20, 30-pound headed, sledgehammer back, all that weight shifts. And I think that's kind of how you give life to that drawing. You even sort of like, that bicep probably doesn't work like that, but at the very least it's communicating, oh yeah, he's definitely struggling against whatever it is,
I know one of the artists, and I didn't watch a lot of his work because he's before my time, but he still draws today, but an artist that's good at showing weight to characters, and just like that's one of the things that's challenging, I think, as an artist, it's particularly a young artist, is showing your characters actually standing on something. Like, even if there's nothing drawn, like they're standing in white space, they still need to feel like they're on the ground. And Alan Davis does an amazing job of that. Like,
who?
Alan Davis.
Oh God, Alan Davis. Thank you.
Does an amazing job of, like, from anatomy, man, to just showing the different body types and weights of his characters. Like, so, like, a lot of even the artists on this panel, I have a PDF file of
a folder with each artist, right?
Yeah, I just
I do too.
Everybody, and so it's something like that you kind of always have to have near you, man, because just when you think you understand and you got it, you see something that's like, oh, okay, that's how he did that. Oh, okay, that's why he made all these details. Oh yeah, so adding weight to characters, I think, helps really sell the shot.
Man, we don't call out Alan Davis enough, man. That guy is a
earlier when we were talking about guys who, like, the body of, like, sometimes when we're drawing and we recognize who, that kind of looks like X, like that. I don't necessarily, again, I don't have that much self-awareness, but the thing that I steal from the most is the 101 Dalmatians animated film from back in the day. I am unabashedly like just steal straight from that.
Milk call, baby.
Movie.
You must have caught our show on that, yeah, Richard.
I missed it, guys, but what a great sort of, for me, it's almost like frame by frame. I need a guy to just be like
2 hours on it, Eric.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
all right. Well, my task here is done. I'll talk to you gentlemen later.
Hold on, I got to bring up a storyteller. I'm going to throw a curveball into this mix with all your John Burns and your Alan Davises. You guys remember Eddie Boykovic?
No.
He was
he's the guy that did Devil, like the Grendel stuff. Yeah,
Grendel, Devils and Deaths, with Darko Makan. It's one of the greatest comic book stories because it like elevates the medium. It has so much emotion in it. It's got great action. His storytelling is like spot on.
What's it called? Grendel what?
Devils and Deaths. Yeah,
that
it's like a
guy. This is a weird aside, Kelsey, but that guy passed away on an operating table, didn't he?
Yeah, he died back in 1999. But the legacy of very few works that he left. He did a Star Wars series.
What was his name?
Edvin. We call him Eddie, but Edvin Boykovic. He's from Croatia. It's Biukovic. Biukovic.
I love what this stream has turned into, a spelling bee. Rich. That's what you've.
But yeah, he's done
Eastern
some
Bloc
other
Nation's
stuff.
Name.
He's done some other stuff, but that's the one to look at because Darko is such a good writer too. But the storytelling, beautiful.
I love John Bogdanov, and I really wish. And Kelsey, you and I have talked about, because I feel like you love John Bogdanov.
He's one of my faves. Yeah.
I don't think he gets enough credit. Thinking about storytelling in terms of how characters are interacting and relating to each other, and actual love and feelings and all of that. Whenever I need to do that, I go straight to anything Bogdanov.
His characters have so much life in them. Yeah.
Yeah,
I actually prefer his old stuff. I'm just now checking out all that he did years of Superman.
Yeah, dude.
And like it just didn't dawn on me that was the same guy.
Yeah, it's not as good, is it? I mean,
you love the
Power Pack,
Fantastic Four
versus the X-Men.
Yeah,
Terry Austin inks.
I love like
That changed my life.
Do you think that was the inker though, Ethan, that you got into? Because who was doing his work on him when he was doing his Superman?
Hilary Barta was great over him.
Yeah,
who was
true.
making him on Superman? I'm not really sure, but when he was doing Power Pack, I don't remember. His Superman stuff to me seemed a little bit like he's taking it easy on himself. I felt like
really? I thought it was. I thought it was more like there were more backgrounds.
There was more there.
He had I think in the beginning, lighting on like everything. If you want to know how to like not have to draw every muscle, but light it with dual lighting so it looks like muscles under fabric, Bogdanovich Superman is filled with that stuff.
I agree. I'm just saying. I think that his stuff when he was at Marvel was a little bit more interesting. I think
me too.
At the beginning of Superman, during the death of Superman, I think he had his he was feeling his oats, but over time he stayed on that book.
Another guy we lost too early, man. R.I.P.
Who?
John Bogdanov. He's gone, right?
I saw him at a convention like 2 years ago.
Yeah, he's
who's the one? I thought who's the guy that died? I thought Bogdanov passed.
Stan Mike.
Michael.
Frank Thorne and his wife died recently.
Kelsey.
Yeah, R.I.P. That guy's amazing too.
All right, kids, I have to excuse myself. Sorry. Thank you for having me, Rich. You guys have a wonderful morning after you, wherever you are. Thanks, you guys.
Take it easy, bro.
So the other artist that Kelsey and I were talking about recently is Stuart Emen.
Oh yeah,
Stuart blows me away. He's so good.
I think he's probably one of the most complete comic book artists that we have. I mean, I can't think of anybody more complete. The guy is amazing at storytelling, composition, characters, acting. His set designs are interesting. I mean, the guy's got it all, and he does it monthly or can. It's
crazy.
I see. Not everyone agrees.
I don't know enough about him.
I like his stuff.
I do like his stuff too. I think he really came alive on Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I wasn't reading it. I remember Stuart when he was I think he was drawing Superman at one point, and I thought his stuff was good. But I think he really came alive in the 2000 teens. I remember Bendis talking about him endlessly, and Mark Miller talking about him too. I think they're working together on something. I missed it. I'll check it out though. I'm like Dan. Dan takes notes. Dan's like, wait, what is this comic book that I have not read, that I have not consumed, that I have not taken into my heart?
It's weird. You guys made me aware of something, and it's that I judge art, or I say I like something based on two different factors. I can almost put them in different categories because I see a guy like Adam Hughes. I see a guy like Stuart Emen. I see guys like Brian Bolin. No offense, Ethan. And I look at them and I think, God, these guys are incredible, right? And I go, what they do is insanely good, but then there's nothing about them that I say, I wish I had that in my work, right? Yeah. I can look at it and go, they are superior at like lighting than I can see that they're better at the thing than I am. Because obviously we're insecure beings. Some of us are, except for Dave Finch, who's the best.
Yeah.
No, but very humble. Very.
No, he is. He is.
I know.
We're just razzing. We're razzing. But the other category I have, and thank God Eric Canete's not here, but is guys that have stuff in their work. I look at it and I go, God damn it! I wish I could do that. Or I need more of that in my stuff. Like I'm a huge fan of Eric. I've been a fan of his since '96. There is an energy and a life to his stuff that it feels intangible to me.
Yeah, some of those guys like Eric, if you pull anything from Eric, you're going to be like, you're ripping from Eric. I mean, you can't take much from that guy. He has something that Jack Kirby has, that Michael Golden has. Mm-hmm. There's this inherent active energy that the thing is moving, even though it's on a page. It's there's a poise, like a
a life, a poise,
potential action at any moment.
There's stuff about everybody here, your work, that I look at it and I go, I want some of that. But like I'm saying, there's two categories for me. I look at Adam Hughes and I go, God, that's gorgeous. Yeah. Wow, that's great. But I myself would never want to. I don't want my women to look like that.
I was telling Rich the other day that those guys on that level kind of relax me. You know, like I look at Eminem, I look at like Adam Hughes, and I go, well, you know, I'm not going to get there. So, I can just enjoy what I do. You know, let me just enjoy what it is I do.
Right.
I think you have, man. I think it's good to have, like you said, Fraga, having your different categories, man. Your categories for people that you pull from.
Right.
Yeah. And then people that just you marvel at. So like this is just your gallery. And
yeah,
there's a guy by name, I think it's Andy Bryce, and he does like really detailed.
I know his stuff.
Work. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. That is.
Grace.
I couldn't sit there and like do that for that long. It seems tedious to me, but he does it, and you look at it and it's gorgeous. You know, and like you mentioned, individuals like Adam Hughes and Alex Ross, guys like that. It's like. But for people that I like pull from, I know we got EBS here, man. I always tell them I pulled Creating Fire from how he did Green Lantern. Like I remember looking at Green Lantern Rebirth, and I was like, man, the way that I'd never seen the Green Lantern done like that. Of Olivier Coipel and the way he sets up his panels and how he can take a whole bunch of information. And you mentioned how it still feels like it's moving, like. To me, like that is amazing, to be able to do that type of stuff. So I think you do need those two different, aspects you pull from people, man, that inspire you to pull and glean from it, and people just inspire you to create. And both of those are necessary. So.
Do you guys keep a rigid schedule in terms of when you work? I kind of try to for myself. I try to draw from like 10 in the morning till like 6 at night, but I don't really work at night anymore. I used to work real late. I would work from like 8 until, I know Ethan keeps very weird hours. I see you pop up like
weird hours too, man.
Do you just sleep whenever? Like when you're tired, get some sleep?
You just got
Well, all you guys are all family guys. So I assume that a lot of your time depends on when you can get free time from family activities. So.
100%.
That is true. I mean, I know I've got something to do today at 12:30, so I got to schedule my whole life around it and my work time. But it's also about when you really want to do it. And Andrea will come downstairs and be like, "Sweetheart, it's 11 p.m. You want to come to bed?" And I'm like, I can't, because I'm like in the zone. And again, when it's really happening, and you feel it. And I'm not somebody who's very mechanical. I'm self-taught. I'm lucky when something I draw turns out well. Frankly, I don't know what I'm doing. Dan was talking to me the other day. We're having a conversation, and he's like, Dan's like, I feel blind since my surgery. Like I can't picture what it is I'm supposed to. The meds are making Dan sees the drawing that he's going to do before he does it. Now, sometimes I do. Sometimes I go, I know exactly what I need to do.
Yeah.
Most of the time, though, I just work it out on the page, and whatever happens, happens. And if it happens, thank you, God, once again, for letting me fool all these people, who are so much better than me.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. But when it's happening, it really, you need to sit and you need to just allow that inspiration to come out, and whatever is going to appear on that page is going to be better because you stayed up until 6 a.m. And fortunately, you want to be married to a woman who understands that.
No shit. I find it helpful to never ever want to work, because you get your best work done. Because like when I really want to work, it's amazing what comes out of the world to interrupt me. It's just astonishing. I'm trying to work today, but I got to run to the store real quick. Flat tire. I get the tire fixed, phone call, got to go help my brother. Got phone, I got to finish up this thing here. I got to do lunch. Oh, I forgot to eat today. Let me go, it's just nonstop. So I just try not to want to work, which is kind of my natural impulse. So
Brohawk's got a good question. my stuff always comes in the form of ideas, those dead sleep ones. I have a notepad on my dresser next to me. I might do a thumbnail or write a quick note down, but I never like pop up and like, go down to the board, because I would have to go down 2 flights of stairs, potentially waking up half the house. So I'll just like, scroll it down real fast.
I have stayed up, like I'm dead tired, and like seriously, like right before I'm about to get up and go to the crash, an idea will pop into my head, and I'll spend the next hour drawing it, and it'll wake me up, but I've never woken up out of a dead sleep to do it. That's
really generous super chat here. I'd like to read it. And also I want to thank Hunter and David Browser. Yeah. So Albino Thunderbruns, aka Joe Fulton, says, is the newly hired editor of Arc Athena, which is Eric Canete's book, which I'll have plugs for everyone in the description box. I can tell you that Eric Canete's series will blow your wigs back.
It always does.
That's why I wear a hat. I'm a hat hack. Eric is throwing down with his story, crowdfunding on Indiegogo in September. Thanks for a great show, Rich, and all the best on Blaster Kid. Well, thank you, and I really appreciate it. We're having fun, and we're talking about comic books. The chat got a little out of hand for a second, but it seems to have calmed down. But look, I know that there's some division in comics. It's like, it makes me uncomfortable, but I love comic artists, and I want to hear everyone's story about comics. So, take it for what it is.
There's only one division, and these are people that pretend to be comic book people. We're real comic book people. We love each other. We love all comic book people. We love comics. F everybody else.
Yeah. So there was a really good question. It was Dan, you had talked about a book for I think it was storytelling. I put it up.
It wasn't a storytelling book. The question I think came from Michael Hing about how to improve your visualization skills. Yeah. What I found, I'm a big fan of neural studies, like how our brain works, and I love that show Brain Games, and like all of those things that we.
That's a fun game. Yeah.
It's a fun show, man. So it's a really good show. There's a book I read called there's a book called The Einstein Factor, and there's a whole chapter in it. You don't even have to buy the book. If you just look up Win Wenger, WINWENGER, and Winwenger, winwenger.com, and search for image streaming. There's a process about closing your eyes and describing what you see. And I know a lot of people, I found out a lot of people don't see anything. I also found out some people can't hear voices in their head, not in the crazy sort of sense, but like, when you read a book, you can kind of, and these people that can't think that when someone has a thought in a movie or a thought bubble in a comic, it's a novelty, that it's just to move the story along, but don't realize. So I do realize some people can't hear music. I can hear music in my head. I can hear and see things that don't exist yet, and manifest them. So if you have that ability, if you can close your eyes and see like an orange and turn it blue, and move a light on it, if you can do that in your mind, then you can do this exercise. So what you do is you close your eyes. You allow yourself to have absolute freedom. Don't censor yourself. Doesn't matter if it's silly or not. You get a recording device, whether it's on your iPhone, a tape recorder, a digital recorder, whatever. And you just go for about a minute, and you describe in all 5 senses what you see, hear, smell, taste, whatever, as you're experiencing this daydream. But you describe it out loud as vividly as you can. So then the next step is in image streaming is you play it back and you listen to it, just like you're playing back a movie you just watched. But as you're listening to it, you try to play back that same movie that was playing that first time, and it's basically recalling that image. The third step, and it's crucial that you do it with handwriting and not typing because of a simple fact that happens. You play it back and you transcribe yourself on paper. So if it was, I'm falling from the sky and it is warm. And, I remember my first image stream, like I fell behind a mouse and he was kicking dirt, whatever. I'm writing, kicking dirt, blah, blah, blah. But what you're doing is you're pressing pause and play, listening to it, visualizing it and writing it down, but you're literally slowing that movie down almost like you're stepping through it.
Right.
Now, what happens to your brain just out of the simple fact that what we do a lot of, your brain will accommodate. That's why they practice and, whatever. You get better at the thing you do more of. Your brain goes, hey, this guy wants me to create images. This guy wants me to hold these images. And what I found was that my visualization had blown up. Like I can see, the meds, like Ethan was saying, we had this conversation. I said that the hard part about this surgery outside of the pain is like, dude, it's almost like kryptonite. I find strength in the fact that I can see images, and they are so cloudy with meds. But I found that increased things. But then, I basically, this all stemmed out of seeing Kim Jong-il's work and going, how this guy's an alien. I don't get it. I just wrote a list of why can't I, like if it's, I can't, why can't I dunk like Michael Jordan? I'm not tall enough, or I don't do enough exercises, or I don't shoot enough baskets or whatever. You write that list and you go, well, I'm going to go shoot baskets. Well, I'm going to go strengthen my legs. Well, I'm going to go practice jumping. And eventually you'll get either to that place or you'll at least be better in a closer direction to that thing. Yeah. So with Kim Jong-il, I wrote the list. So I said, okay, visualization, but visual vocabulary. How can you visualize an engine if you've never looked at one? So, so I will I have like a checklist of things. Like if I open a trunk or if I go through things on Pinterest that I like if I'm going to draw a bunch of flying motorcycles, I might look at motorcycles for an hour, but I will literally, it's almost like Johnny Five Alive.
Right.
Fill the vocabulary box so that when I go and conjure these images, I have the material to conjure them. Yeah. But then lastly, if it was just as simple as being able to draw what you see, then we would all just be drawing photographically by looking at and drawing, right? So, but no, that doesn't work. We know that. So what you
through all our influences?
You have to remove ciphers, right? Not the idea of what the thing is, not the idea of it, but what it is. And the way you can train your eye is to do what they call blind contour drawing, right?
Oh yeah.
A lot of you guys work digitally or do work digitally, and probably go back to the days of the Intuos. You remember the Intuos?
Where you're drawing over here and looking over here, right?
Right.
Did a lot of
that. That's how I treat when I do blind contour drawing. My hand and paper are over here, but my eye is the cursor, and I basically look at. I do maybe 15 minutes of this, of looking around or looking at pictures on my computer, and I'll basically calibrate my eye and my hand to be as closely in alignment as I possibly can. And then that way, when I start to visualize, I go as quick as I can and I capture as if it was in front of me the thing I'm seeing, and then I'm able to go in and break those details. But
I just get to work. That's it. I don't have time for any of that mess.
It doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't.
No, it's actually good exercise. I just, there was a time when I thought, watching a video of a guy climbing Mount Everest, and he's like, this is my life's goal. And I was like, should I want to achieve something like that? Should I want to go to the bottom of the ocean or climb the highest mountain? And I thought, no, I'm fine watching it on TV. So
yeah.
With art, like I remember trying a lot of that stuff, and it was like at the end of the day, I got stacks and stacks of paper of stuff just sitting around with doodles on it. And Michael Ringo, God bless him, another RIP. I'm all about the death today, I guess. But Michael Ringo told me, he's like, why don't you just take all that time you spend doing these little sketches and putting them online and do a page, put all those individual sketches as panels on a page and get something done. And that really rang true to me. I was like, Okay.
Yeah, you know who else is that way is McFarlane.
Yeah.
I've been collecting doodles of people, and it's because I am. No, I've been collecting doodles like almost what you would call throwaways, right? I have some Frazetta, I've got Krenkel, I have John Byrne, I have some Liefelds, and I've been reaching out to different artists where I'm like, I would love to have some of your rough doodles in my book. And I gave Todd a call, and he's like, bud, I don't doodle, I draw a page, and I was like, oh shit, but again, if they're it. To each their own, you know what I'm saying? Like I have to, I incessantly doodle because I'm on this quest. Like, we go back to that guy's original question. No problem, Eric. The original question about losing the desire. My desire is to be able to efficiently and quickly pull the thing that's in my head out and put it on paper. That's my main goal.
It's crazy what you do with those. I mean, just in general, like when you really started going like daily on Instagram, I was just like, holy shit. Before we were working together on the He-Man stuff, very, very impressed. I mean, it was like, dude, you were like a man on a mission. You were doing little tiny drawings, and you were doing the stream of consciousness drawings, and I'm like, man, I need to get my shit together, because
again, it's for it. Everybody's thing's different, It's like that for me. That it's just the quest. But I see that I was talking to Ethan about this the other day, as far as the grass is greener thing. But everybody has this sort of illusion that everybody has it easy. I look at Canaan stuff and I go, it's so effortless. I look at Kelsey stuff. It's so effortless. It's like,
it is.
Go around all you guys, and I go, yeah, exactly. It is. I'm going to
tell all of you guys that.
Yeah, I make it look easy because it is to me.
You guys need to relax a little bit.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing, is a lot of guys, they make it look really easy. Or there's, I look at people like Claire Wendling or Jeffrey Jones, and there's this sort of fluidity and like naturalness to it that I envy, because I feel like I have to purposely try to relax, which means you can't relax if it's like someone saying,
you found a way to relax though, Dan, and you do it 2 or 3 times a day,
we know.
You're in a constant state of relaxation.
This is what confuses me about the drug fog that he's under. I
wouldn't be able to draw shit. It would.
You know what? I got to smoke a little the other day. I've only done it this many times, and I did it because Dan said, John Malin said I draw better when and I went, I wonder if I could too.
It takes time.
It was okay. It was all right. I actually liked it. I was into it. I was focused.
I couldn't draw shit for like a couple years when I started smoking, and eventually it just, you just kind of like get into it. Can you draw? What can Malin draw without it? That's
a different question. I don't think so.
I think we need a rematch between Fraga and Malin, but no ganja this time. See what happens.
God, that'd be so sad.
I'd smash him, because I go through bouts where I'll take a month off, and I'm still good. I'm still good. But you're right. That's essentially it. I mean, alcohol does it too. Bourbon does.
I can't draw drunk. Not at all.
Man, I'm so good when I'm lit. I'm so.
Canaan's like, you bunch of drug addicts. Just draw.
I have to be sober. I have to be. I'd start staring at the wall and want to like play guitar.
I swear, I got a new thing though. Like, it's not a new thing. I've been doing it for years now, but I don't do any kind of mind-altering stuff. With the exception of cigarettes, that calms me down, but I'm about to quit that until if I choose to do it, it'll be after work, because like I swear to God, Tarantino had the best line in Jackie Brown where he's like, don't you know that shit'll steal your ambition? And it's so true, man.
It depends. It depends, man. This is my advice for anyone that smokes is if you smoke before you have any ambition, you won't have ambition, right?
Oh, there you go.
But what it does is it's kind of like Venom in the Spider-Man Tobey Maguire movie. It just it magnifies things, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're drawing, it magnifies the drawing. If you're listening to music, it magnifies the music. If you're ever if you're like wanting to chill, then you will chill.
Yeah.
You know, I've never had ambition problems smoking.
Yeah, it makes me like on the edge of like a panic attack.
It depends on what you're smoking, man. Like
honestly, these days I'm just totally chilled out as far as like drawing goes. It's every once in a while you'll hit that thing where it's like nothing working, you know, and then that's the day where I go and clean house or whatever, you know, because it's like, okay, today is not the day. You know, but most of the time you just get to the page. I'm watching TV. I'm not even thinking about what I'm doing. I read over the script. I have in my mind what I'm going to do. I just make it work. So I try not to think about having to redraw that hand. It's just a thing you're doing, you know, and man, it's the pages that don't work out, or like you got that vision in your head. And to your point where you were talking about Kim Jong-gi, he was saying how, I happened to be watching a video, thank God, where people were praising him and saying, "Oh, maybe I should draw without penciling." And he was like, "No." He's like, "Please don't skip that step." He did that for years and years. And I swear to God, as he was doing it, somebody said, "You forgot a person in that panel." And he went back to look at the other panel, and there was a whole other chair with a person. And he's like, "See, look," and he had to like white it out and figure it out. So he makes mistakes. Yeah, and that was a real eye opener, I think, to people watching. That
his number one mistake was messing with Dan Fraga.
What?
What?
Dan will get revenge. I'm just kidding, Dan.
Only on wax, man. Only on wax.
His first mistake was.
I decided that's how I'm gonna kill people is on wax. Like when my mixtape comes out, that's when.
Oh, I see. I cannot wait to do another rap tape.
Yeah, Ether.
Hey, kill me in a rap tape. I'd love that.
You want to come in? You got the voice for it.
Oh, I thought you were just going to kill me in the rap. I'll try.
No. When I say kill people, I mean like, you know, no one's
lyrically,
no one's safe.
Yeah. What's his name? Eminem used to kill people in his songs all the time.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Dan,
but
like in the comment section, I mean, you should actually compile some of like your sort of inspirational stuff. I mean, I've considered doing it myself because I have so many videos where I've given what I consider like pretty sound advice for people. But like if you crowdfunded a book like that with like maybe sketches and like your sort of Yoda wisdom, I think people would actually really enjoy that.
Real comics according to Boom.
They really would, man, because that's something, you know, once I get whenever the time comes about, but you know, shift my art channel to more like a art therapy, because art in so many ways, when you talk to a lot of different people, not everybody's the same, but I know just for me personally and from a lot of people, art has saved their life in many ways, because the outlet, you know, whatever they were going through, it's like art was like that only thing, whether it be art, whether it be music, poetry, all those different things. And so having a book like that, man, where you almost reminds me of those like those kung fu books where
right, you know, like Confucius or something, you know.
No book where it had, you know, the philosophy of like Confucius, but at the same time it showed you how to fight, you know, and then showed into like the Buddha's Zen stuff, like that for artists, kind of like a compendium, man, where they can like, because there's just reality, man. Like when you know, how do you, for example, how do you create when, you know, you had a loss? How do you bounce back from that? You know, when you got a deadline, but somebody died literally the other day.
The show must go on, man. Show must go on.
I had to deal with this the other day. I had surgery on Thursday, but I had a deadline for this show on Monday, and you know, I'm on pain medication. I'm in pain, and I go, but it's due Monday.
Yeah.
That's all you, I mean, that's how you get that. That's how you do it. It's due Monday.
I tell you, when you're doing it for a living, that bill money, man, that bill money creeps up, and I'm like, I got no choice. I got to make this work.
Yeah.
You know,
for me, it's relationships, man. Like the relationships are like, you know, gold. You don't ever want to like destroy good relationships. You don't want to be the bad guy in any situation. You know, that doesn't mean you don't, you know, go put yourself out there and get taken advantage of. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you don't want to be the bad guy in situations. You don't want to like, you obviously want to take responsibility for anything that you do, but you also like, you have to take responsibility for the blame of things, but you don't want to be that guy, you know? But going back to what you were saying, Canaan, yeah, I've thought about it. I've thought about doing a book, and you know, you could fill a library with all the procedural how to draw books. You know, draw a cube, draw a cylinder, put them together like this, do stick figures. Basically, you know, if you take a Loomis book, a Bridgman book, Hogarth, and you know all the how to draw comic books. They pretty much, the Venn diagram, they're like, it's a circle with a couple edges, you know, that's how much. So I guess, you know, I think like a philosophy, I think is the key missing.
I only got one sort of lesson for people. Like I don't really like teaching people how to draw, you know, cause I get tongue tied and I'm always figuring out new stuff myself. I'm like, just have a story to tell and the rest will come, you know. You know, you're going to figure it out, but it's the story that really drives you. You know, I can only see so many single images on ArtStation before I'm bored. You know, you engage my mind and we're on to something there.
Yeah, so, man, that's the thing. I had a saying, it's good handwriting doesn't make a good writer. Yeah. And basically the basic behind that is Shakespeare written in crayon with his left hand is still Shakespeare, right? It's what you say with it, not the filigree of it.
That goes in the book.
Yeah, it's like the saying of you know, when they talk about tools, what kind of tools use, what kind of tools, you know, everybody's got a camera now on their phone, everybody can be a photographer, everybody's got a computer, they can be a whatever. And there was a writer that says pencil and paper have existed nearly since the beginning, and not everyone's a great writer. So, you know, it's not about the tools. You can do it. Yeah. You can do whatever.
It's funny. It's funny because I actually go back and forth on that. When I was young, I used to ask people, what pencil are you using, and this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter in the regard of what we're talking about, that what the thing says back to the audience is really what matters, not how it says it, but that idea is conveyed. But that said, you know, you may be interested in a technique that will help sell something in that way. And you may think, oh, this person is using a rapidograph, right? And then you find out, no, it's a 102, and you banged your head trying to get that vibe out of a rapidograph. And if they had just said, oh, it's a 102, you would have saved yourself a lot of trouble if it's like part of the communication. So I'm on both, like I'm more on this side of like, it doesn't matter. But I'm also on the side that, like, yeah, man, if you have shitty watercolor set, you're not going to be painting. Like, here's a living example. Kenneth Rockefort used to do these daily sketches in this little moleskin, right?
Remember that.
And I took on the habit in 2014. I had this, actually, I have it right here. I had the same moleskin as he had. And I was doing, you know, little pencil style drawings, and I was noticing he was doing some watercolor, but I was also noticing that his watercolors weren't saturating the page. They were more vibrant. You know, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why are my pages all wrinkly and weird, and his aren't? you know, and I asked him, so like this was something I had done with like my regular Winsor and Newton watercolors.
Oh, right.
And I had to use very tiny bits of water, and Kenneth was like, no, man, I just used my watercolors and water's not an issue, blah, blah, blah. And I said, fuck. But one day in one of his photos, I caught what brand he was using, right? Mm-hmm. And it was Schminke. And I look up Schminke, and they're fucking pricey as hell. I bought a 48 half pan myself, got them, did my first watercolor using them. And look at how saturated and bright and there's no buckling on the paper.
Wow.
Watercolor. So that this time around, brand matter.
That's true, because you do have the quality of like how it's made. But I got a flip side to that. I was hanging out with Tony Harris and Andrew Robinson and those guys from Jolly Roger Studios. Yeah. And this is when Andrew was doing the Starman painted covers. Yeah. And I don't remember which exactly one he was working on, but we were all giving him hell because he started it as a charcoal drawing. And we're like, what are you going to do on top? He's like, I don't know, acrylics, watercolor, whatever, you know. And it's like, don't you know that stuff doesn't go on top of charcoal? Like, it won't stick. And he did it anyway. I mean, he just
fixed it down or something.
No, I don't know. He just
force of will.
It's that he didn't know, and it somehow it's like it just made it work. And he's the kind of guy that's like that. He just like will just make it. It'll just happen. He's gifted in that way.
Yeah. I gotta go, guys. My family's home, and I put bouncy houses outside. So I'm gonna go watch the kids. Thank you for having me on, Richard. I appreciate it. See you later, Canaan. See you, Kelsey, and Dan. Bye.
See you, bro. Good man.
So I gotta ask about you guys for David's question, how fast you finished a book. He said 3 days. Of course, I spent the next 3 weeks finishing it for him, but 3 days is not bad.
The very first book that I inked at Wildstorm, they had a penciler named Pop Man. I was only inking it.
Pop.
Pop. Yeah.
Just thinking about it's giving me butterflies. But Pop took it on, and we did a full issue of Union in like, I don't even know, a weekend or something. It was terrible. We both were freaking out. We were so nervous, and it really looked like shit. So it wasn't our proudest moment, but
I colored some Pop. I like Pop. I hope he's still out there.
But
he is.
Our heads.
He was doing He-Man. He was doing He-Man for a while.
Oh, cool.
My fastest, and it was the old, like, I'm gonna make this a masterpiece sort of situation. This happened twice, so it was shame on me both times, really, and the same inker both times. God bless Larry Stucker. Yeah, Gen X Annual 97 and What If number 103. On one of them, we did 18 pages in one sitting. It was probably a good 30-something hours worth. And then on another one, we did 22 pages in one sitting. And it was basically, I took all the time in the beginning to like really noodle stuff. And then the editor was like, yeah, I'm going to fucking fire you if you don't get this in. And it was like, okay, I will. Yeah, I'll do it. And I just remember being at Larry Stucker's house. His wife was pregnant with his first child. There was a TV between us, and he had videotapes of the UFC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the original stuff like Dan Severin and Shamrock and the Gracies. Yeah. And I remember that's where I became a UFC fan. But we literally like those many hours. The way we did it was we would watch the UFC. We'd be drinking coffee or Mountain Dew, but we gamified it. Right? It was, I'm going to pencil a page, hand it to you. I'm going to pencil this next page before you're done with that page. And he would race me and I would race him.
That's fun.
And we literally just raced each other for 30 hours.
Yeah.
But never a full book. But that 22 pages in that annual, I mean, constitutes as a full book, even though it was like a 40-page or something.
David, I still got my Jaguar issues. You better be careful. I'll drag them suckers out.
Oh shit.
For me, probably, I mean, the standard month, you know what I'm saying, 22 pages a month, whatever.
That's still pretty good for most people.
It was a month, maybe a month and a half, but it was more so when I was doing like the Uber stuff. So I mean, you had, because it was syndicated and all that stuff, so you had to kind of stick to the deadline. But yeah, I mean, that was probably my fastest.
I did I wrote penciled, inked, and colored. I think it was 22, 24 pages in like 2.5 weeks. And it's rough, but it's a lot of fun. In fact, I think it's some of my favorite stuff. And I've done that every time I'll go and do something at Antarctic Press because it kind of gives me almost like a freedom, to experiment, try new things, to get, try something like that. Let me try to see how fast I can go and like what happens when I stop thinking about it and just produce. And some of the results are great. What is that?
I was trying to grab your peanut butter.
Oh, okay.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. I wouldn't imagine that Stefan could work that fast, because his stuff is pretty ornate.
Well, it's very like loose and it's painterly. I actually really dig that guy's stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's got a lot of character. He seems to focus on the acting and like the perfect fold. It's just like it's like who am I thinking of? Who's that guy that does the great impressionist, or not impressionist, but oh man, where he'll just like, who am I thinking of? You know what I'm thinking of? He did that Madam X portrait of the woman in the black. Oh man, Frederick. No,
Singer Sargent.
Yeah, Sargent. Yeah, that has to be it. Sargent. He would do like a fold with just like a brush stroke. That's it. But when you kind of pull back from it, it looks like folds and stuff, and you're like amazing. And I think that Sebjan Jugvik, whatever, yeah. I can never say that guy's name. I think he's like that. He's very impressionistic, which I kind of dig.
I've never used gouache. I've wanted to buy a set for a long time. It can be very expensive to get decent. Like
gouache is awesome.
Yeah, but I've never used it.
It's tricky.
It's like watercolor.
It is. It's opaque watercolor that you can thin down.
Oh, you got to be careful though about going back over it, because like it's water based. So suddenly, you'll start mixing color without even realizing it. I actually dig it. I'm a watercolor nut. So, and I started. I was trained by Stelfreeze to work on acrylic. And acrylic just seemed like a little too unforgiving. And then I liked watercolor, but then there were moments when I got to get a little opaque with it, like I want a little on top. I want a little meat to this potato here, and so gouache seems to be like perfect, where if you kind of do all your washes and then you can come in with detail and like define stuff. This is what I was telling Fraga. I'd love to have a gouache off, man. We need to get our watercolor off.
We can, dude. I have my set right here. It's dry as fuck. I wonder if I can grab it. Let me see if I can grab it.
What we need to do is get one of those old tin sets like you're talking about from, the Crayola watercolors.
The shit
so you could bust out. Yeah, so you could bust out
I've got good sets, man. Hold on a second. I'm going to kill my camera. I'm going to grab my gouache out because you guys are making me want to, but they're dry as fuck. Hold on.
I wanted to comment on this. You've got to watch when you buy 30 paints of Holbein on eBay for $60 to $80. That is fake, counterfeit Chinese Holbein paints. I'm going to tell you right now that you're not getting gouache sets that are actually Holbein paints for that price. So be careful when you buy shit on eBay. I'm friends with the owner of Holbein, and even Amazon. He says do not buy it on Amazon. He said a lot of that stuff is just.
Dude. Be careful of Wish too, man. I saw like a whole set of microns on Wish, and they looked like the real thing. So I bought them, and they had two normal micron pins, but the the logo was smeared, like as if they ruined it doing the silkscreen, and the rest didn't even have that. They were all dried out.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna show you these. They're dry as fuck. There's some illegal colors in here. Like you're not allowed to have them anymore, like cobalts and things like that. Let me see if I can do.
I love Mateo's.
There you go.
Wow.
Nice.
That's my gouache set. Like I said, everything's dry. These all came out of tubes, and I did my full array, and then I do all my mixing in here. But little bit of distilled water, I have this little grinder thing. A little bit of water, it gets the pigments up. But like that's an illegal color. You can't buy that anymore. Like cadmiums and cobalts, that's an illegal color.
Illegal.
They killed someone in Vegas.
No, I mean you can't buy them anymore. They cause cancer.
Right.
Yeah. No, when I opened it up, the smell of cancer came out. It's
like those markers, man. You ever use those giant black magic markers or whatever? And it's just, I love the smell actually, but I know I'm gonna die from this.
It just takes a few minutes off your life.
Yeah,
just a couple.
I got too many. I can get rid of some.
So Alex Ross used to do Astro City covers, and he would send his originals to Wildstorm. So in the scanner room, I could go in there and look at Alex Ross paintings, like
wow,
no pressure to like hurry up and stuff like that. They literally look like the hand of God put them on the boards. I mean, there was like you could not tell that it wasn't like a reproduction. It was like they were flawless every time they would. We had stacks of them at times, and I mean they were perfect.
Oh man, dude! When I worked at Antarctic Press way back in the day, we used to have the same thing. We had an art file where people would send in their art, and then we can scan it and do all the things, and then we send it back. And that's where man, I'm missing his name all of a sudden. God, that other painter from Croatia.
Not Ribic. It's
Esad. Yeah, Esad Ribic. He had his originals there, and it was fascinating. But they smelled like cigarette smoke. That was like the first time I realized that cigarette smoke stuck to art. Yeah. But it was the same way. But what was neat about his, I can imagine Alex Ross's were probably like 11 by 17 or bigger, right?
Bigger. They were maybe 14 by 18 ish.
Yeah. Esad's were like this big. They were like 14 inches long, maybe.
So Leg Kick had an interesting question. He asked if we feel that we constantly improve, or there are peaks and valleys, or do you plateau? I honestly have days where I feel like I've gone backwards. And here's the trick that I use now, because I learned this from playing guitar. Sometimes a shitty day can turn into a great day, but you have to stick to drawing more than 30 minutes and get frustrated because it's not turning into magic. Sometimes it takes me 2 or 3 hours to really get like in the zone. And I've turned some really horrible starts into pretty productive days. What do you guys think?
I think you can plateau, but I think that's when you have to go back and kind of like, I was looking at, I said before I did kind of the style shift, maybe about a week ago. One of the reasons why I did is because, as much as I like doing a lot of the shadow work and the rendering, for me, it started to feel muddy. I was like, I'm losing a lot of the detail. I'm losing a lot of the impact of, not the detail, but the structure of what I was trying to draw. And so I was like, okay. So, I went back to like early on, probably in, I think 2000, I did a book called Patolus, and it was basically line art because I didn't know how to add shadows and stuff. So, I went back to my, kind of what I used to do, looking at some of the Travis Charest, not his really, really detailed stuff, but like some of the stuff he did for Wildcats. It was like more line art, more free art, letting the artwork breathe. And so I was like, okay. And so now I think I'm where I wanted to be so many years ago, where it was a mixture of the shadow, the shadows when necessary. Other than that, let the art breathe.
Yeah.
And that took getting to this. Sometimes the plateau isn't bad. It just means now it's time to reinvent yourself. start over, or or trim the fat and go back to some of the basics, some of the things you used to do. Because like you too, Richard, man, sometimes I would do stuff and it's like, you forget an anatomy. It's like, man, I know how to draw. like it's working. And so for me, because I was using a lot of the shadow, I was almost like thinking first, like I was looking at the shadows on the muscles instead of what they looked like and how they were supposed to be. And so going back to the line art forces you to add those elements and like to define the the traps and the deltoids and the the abs, but then still add those shadows in there when it's necessary, when there's stuff that's casting, because I like plus it's also like a nice little cop out if you don't want to draw some, but arm and complete shadow, but when it makes sense, because Travis Travis did Weiss Pistachio, he does it. Mark Silvestri does it.
Travis did an interesting thing, and I noticed it a long time ago, and I've talked about it with friends, but I have this theory with Travis that was very interesting, but it kind of it does fit. You could literally stop Travis at any point in a drawing and it always looked good. It was very weird that it was like there was if you walked in and he was only an hour into a page, you could grab it and it probably would work in some way. And I always was like, that's really weird. But I mean, we've all seen stuff where he's been rushed on, and it's like, grifter with no backgrounds and maybe like a stat of like one cone or something, like a little pillar, and you're like, man, that's brilliant. Like
honestly, like you said, Richard, like there's that's just some of his like Wildcat pages that I printed out and stuff, and I think there's one where like Spartans fighting a tank or something like that.
Right.
If he stayed there for the rest of his time, that would have been perfect. Like he did a voodoo. I think she was paying that. Like he didn't need any more detail. I mean, that right there was like perfect.
It's funny. I was talking to Richard about this not that long ago, where I was like, I actually love it when artists do that, because they'll move on so quick. And like to me, like Travis has like a 2-issue back-to-back set in Wildcats in the first run he did before the relaunch with Rich came in. I think Troy Hubbs inked these 2 issues, but they were high design. Like he was coming in with some stealth freeze, some like high, things were angular, and I'm like, I'll just take that. And I'll just go with that style. He doesn't need it anymore. I'll just take that. Like I love that. Sometimes they'll do that where they'll dip into something to try something, and I'm like, that's the sweet spot for me.
Gentlemen, I'm gonna answer the Bristol board question, and then I gotta go because I have a meeting at 4 that I gotta prep for. But the Bristol board question, we'll go to worst to best, and then a sidebar best, because obviously the best that I have you can't get. My least favored Bristol board that I've ever used is Blue Line Pro. Garbage. No, I mean for the tools I use.
Yeah, totally.
Blue Line Pro, the ones that they say comic paper. I like the guys that run that place, but like I don't like their paper. The best paper I ever used, and I have a case of it right here. In fact, I asked Rob Liefeld to pay me in paper once. I know that sounds bizarre, but I did some. I inked some Major X pages, and he said it was right before I moved here to Georgia. He's like, "Hey, you want me to cut you a check?" I said, "Rob, what do you think about paying me in paper?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" And I said, "You have a couple cases of the original Image Comics Bristol board." And it's like the stuff they printed back in the day, back like when I was working on the original Black Flag. This is like paper from 94, 95. And he had a couple cases. I said,
Rich is about to pull some out too. Look at him.
Yeah, I have a case of it.
Oh, dude.
I I have almost 600 sheets to my name, you know. So
oh man,
I said to
I might
Rob,
buy like a couple sheets just so I can have them in my files. I'll never use them, just have them in there.
Oh, you should. There it is. There it is. It's cover on one side and regular page on the other.
Yeah.
But best board I've ever. And they made it in rough and and smooth. I always took to the smooth. Best paper ever. But that said, in lieu of the fact that people can't get it, I found that Canson's Bristol board is excellent. This is my second favorite as far as like stuff you can buy. It takes a pounding. Which reminds me of something Betty White used to say. When they say
she used to take a pounding.
She actually said, I don't understand why they say that man's got balls. Balls are sensitive, and you kick them and they hurt. Why don't they say that man's a vagina? I mean, that thing can take a pounding.
That's
drops the mic. It's like, all right, see you guys later.
Yeah, there you go.
It. No, but I do have to go. I gotta pee really bad. I gotta drink water, and I gotta prep for my meeting. But this has been a wonderful panel to be part of. Canaan, really good to see you, man. Kelsey and Rich, freaking homies. We've got to do a show. Got to do another show. Great seeing Eric and Ethan up in here too. Chat, you guys are awesome. We will see you if you guys. We talked about JR tonight. Graham Nolan's actually interviewing him. Live at 8 p.m. Eastern on Graham Nolan's channel. So you guys check that out. Check out The Professionals, which is on Thursday nights, probably on Art the Bear's channel this time. Watch the Jack Show with Kelsey. You know what it is. You guys be well. We'll see you soon. All right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
In chats.
We all looked more handsome a few minutes ago or a few seconds ago. So for me, here's a funny thing is, so David Finch uses Blue Line Pro actually quite a bit, but he's using the newer stuff. The old Blue Line Pro from a few years ago or many years ago was literally the worst paper I'd ever worked on. The stuff that Finch has been getting, like, I don't know what it is exactly, but it says Blue Line Pro on it. I've done commissions on it. It's not bad by any means. So the most current Blue Line Pro isn't the most horrible paper. I actually do like the Canson, as Dan said. He on board is a option for people. I know that they're out there and doing their thing. I'm not. I have some. I was penciling on it yesterday. I like to pencil on it more than I like to ink on it. So, but yeah, the Canson is good. Strathmore paper is okay. It can tear a lot.
I think the last one I bought was like the Strathmore like cold press. It seemed to do okay, but that Canson, I remember buying some of that a while back, and I was so impressed with how it was thin, but you could it's so just dense, like sturdy. It just feels like you could do almost anything on it and it will hold up. So, I know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Now I use pixels. I do want to get back to some like hand-drawn stuff, but I'm thinking, commissions, special projects, things like that, maybe. But.
It's funny, like I just love the digital. I just love the digital medium, and a lot of times, people, because I say digital, I'm an advocate of doing digital stuff. I mean, you're talking about 20 some odd years of doing traditional, so I know how to do it.
Yeah.
It was the digital medium, man. Like, that's one of the reasons why I kind of went digital, because I like inking over my line. And like, I understand what my lines, and like a lot of times when I had somebody ink over me, it just didn't make sense, and it didn't look like I did. It didn't look like me. Yeah. So I learned. I learned how to ink myself, and the way I learned it was doing it digitally, and it comes out the way that I want it. And so, am I an inker? Not really. I'm a penciler. I just, fortunately, my inks are digital, so I don't have to ink. I just render as if I was using pencil. But yeah, I just like the digital medium, man. Like it's hard to go back to traditional for me.
I got two benefits to digital that helped me out tremendously. It's like, well, one is I was struggling with proportions and things like that, especially if you're doing like a dynamic shot. It's like, how small should that hand be in the far distance? You know how, but digital allowed me to quickly just grab that, adjust it, and then, you know, my mind makes mental notes of that without having to erase and redraw. That's good because you're building muscle memory and stuff. But
right,
you know, when you're faced with a deadline, you don't really have, you got to move. So it enabled me to quickly make adjustments, and I feel like I leveled up being able to quickly make adjustments because my mind can see it. My hand couldn't figure it out until, you know, but now it comes so much easier having done it over and over and over. You start drawing that hand the proper size, you know, more regularly, then you're dealing with other problems after that. But two is I broke my finger. It's still all wacky shaped. And I was right in the middle of a deadline and I had no idea what to do. So I got, what is it called? Manga Studio. And they have tolerances and stuff that you can adjust how, if you do a line, it'll straighten it out. So I pumped all those up to the max and drew with my left hand and inked with my left hand. It went a lot slower, but I wouldn't have been able to do. Everybody was like, "Oh, you're like Frazetta." No. Frazetta just did that all natural. The guy is amazing. I had the benefit of having digital. So in that particular case, it saved my bacon right then.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, we were getting a little too close for comfort.
Kelsey likes to say, we boomer it up a little bit.
Of course.
So David Bowser asked, Canaan, when are you doing that comic with Ethan?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's
I have an attractive background, so we're good.
So much of that stuff is like timing, because it's like there's times where like I feel this way with Canaan at this point. It's like you know, you're right in the middle of something when that becomes available, and it's like, oh dang, you know, and then they'll adjust, and then you become free, and it's like, well, now we're not in that place anymore. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go to the next thing. Sometimes it's really hard to get the schedules to line up. You know, and it's real easy. Like, oh man, all the jobs that I've missed out on. I say that missed out on because I was happily working on something else. But you know, when you're excited about this stuff, it's like it feels like you missed that. You know, like
honestly, man, that's it's like just for me, man. It's like just been like a resurgence in like creativity, man. Where it's like I want to work with everybody.
Yeah,
I was like, I'll do it all. And I know you can't in your lifetime, but like, legit, like you can say, like, it's awesome. No, but it really, like, there's so many people, so many creative ideas, and so many creative avenues, man. Like, I was even, and I don't know if Kelsey mentioned, but I hit him in DM. I was like, man, I'd love to do a Blaster Kid.
Come.
Oh yeah.
You know, but there's just like I said, there's so many things like you want to work with, and so it's like it's for me. I don't know about you guys, man. I don't know. Maybe it's like it's just coming out of 2020, coming in 2021, but I feel like a kid again. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of potential right now.
Yeah, and like it's like Saturday morning cartoons. Like it's just like I'm having fun. And
dude, this is the best. This is what's so. Like, without getting into all the drama, because I definitely am trying not to get into that stuff anymore. But with all that's going on, it's a real shame because I am like you. I feel a re-energized spirit. And like for the longest time, I mean, I've been in this for 22, 23 years, I guess. And I've always struggled because I thought what I wanted to do was like film. You know, I wanted to be I just wanted to tell stories, but film was always my calling, and I kind of fell into comics in a weird way because, but there was a point where I fell in love with it again, and then I made a pact with myself that I was going to stick with it until the next wave. Yeah. So when all this started, you know, I was like, this is potentially the next wave of interest, or at least where people are reorganizing their thought to be more focused on storytelling and fans and just making more out of it than just pumping out a thing every month, and that's I'm right there with you, man. I'm so excited about everything that's going on.
Like the stories that people are telling, like a lot of creators, man, they're creating their own IPs. They're doing all these different things, man. They're creating them on various topics, like I said, from the controversy to the non-controversy. But there's so much out there.
I mean, look at Rich. Rich has done 20-something years of inking, and now he's a penciler. Now he's a storyteller. He's telling his own story.
And an amazing penciler at that. He don't say much about it, but you a beast, dude.
Well, Kelsey knows I'm going through some pretty like hard growing pains right now. But look, I was going to actually
You're going to stand there and take it. You're awesome.
There was a question earlier about I can't remember what the topic was, but I was going to say so for me, what's been one of the hardest challenges of going into drawing my own stuff, and it's kind of my personality anyway, so it actually works in a way too. But as an inker, I've had to be very malleable in terms of what style Richard Friend is as an artist, because if I ink David Finch, I mean, I don't want to drop big names, but anyway, I've worked on a lot of different styles. I worked on a girl named Amy Reeder Hadley, who has a very delicate kind of Josh Middleton type style. And, I worked on Dustin Wynn, and Dustin Wynn kind of has his own thing. And it's like, so I never really knew who I was in that whole mix. And then you would get these little opportunities, like say you had like a few weeks off to draw. I mean, sometimes it would be a complete disaster because I just really didn't know what to do. It's you're like, oh, now you can run around the yard, and you're like, I don't even know what I should practice. I don't know what I should draw. And I struggled with that for a long time. And so when, I hate to make excuses for myself, but I think one of the reasons that it is so difficult to transition from as a full-time inker into penciler is, one, it's not the same skill set. It just isn't. And like Jonathan Glapian is an example. He's very, very talented. I mean, I can tell that he definitely 1000% has the skills to pencil comics. But even for someone like him, it would be very difficult right now probably to switch gears and actually do it. And then you have to let yourself do it, which means you have to be able to let yourself fail. And that's very, very difficult because no one is going to go into drawing comic books and just be like, I got this shit covered. You're going to have drawings that completely embarrass you, and you're going to feel like you really don't know what you're doing. And that's terrifying.
It is a change. Like you said, it's when you're, I just put it in sports terms, man. Like if you're a quarterback and you've always been on the bench, then all of a sudden the guy gets hurt. Not many people can do, what Tom Brady did, really end up taking over the team and then you win 6 championships, stuff like that. Not many people can do that. Some people, they come off, like you said, and it's a disaster. They can't score, they struggle, they get injured, and then they're back on the bench. So, stepping out as a penciler, there's going to be trial and error. You're going to make mistakes. But the beauty is that you, Rich, have gotten so, like you've almost developed so many different styles from inking other people. Now it's going to be interesting to see all of that coalesce into something that's nobody's ever seen before. You become your own mainstream. You know what I mean?
I was just about to say something like that, in that I think it's probably a good idea for at least some people, not everybody, but like I happen to be better at inking when I started than penciling. So I started inking people, and then I picked up things working on them, and then I started coloring. And you wouldn't believe, like, there, David Williams right there. You wouldn't believe the things that I learned from just coloring him broadened my scope immensely. So humble yourself, and if you get a chance to do something, work with other people, you should, because you can pick up little things from them.
There was a super chat. So was loving the show. Do any of you fellows do portfolio reviews, and how would one go about it? I answered him in the chat, but I do through my Patreon for $20. I do a 20-minute review. People really love them, and I really do put a lot of thought into them and try to get you on point. They're not generic, like do this, do that. I look at your work. I kind of look at what I think is going on, and I really kind of use my intuition and get down to what's going to help you and not help just like
you're very good at it. Actually, he just did my latest story. It's so funny because we were going to review each other's stuff, and like he went through my stuff with a fine-tooth comb, and it was like so good. And then it was my turn, and I'm like, I don't know, do better on this one.
And there was another one. Oh, it was yeah, I mean, I'll give you my advice on this because I suffered from this for many years. So first off, perfectionism is a lie that you tell yourself. For years, I was like, I'm a perfectionist. I was afraid to fail. That's the reality. I clung to the idea that I was a perfectionist, but it's not. That really wasn't at the core of what was going on. And when you're too hard on yourself or you doubt yourself, you have to understand that most artists do that. In fact, I would say all do. And so honestly, the fix for it is to just muscle through it and know. I always tell people this. I say, look, I go draw for 3 months on a schedule, whatever amount of time that you can fit into it, and do not judge anything that you draw. In fact, I tell people don't share anything you draw. Just focus on drawing each day and put them away when you're done. Finish things is another thing that I force that. Draw on a schedule, whatever your schedule is, finish the things and do not judge what you do, but just take it to a finished point and draw for 3 months. Then you can go back and you can look at the stuff and see what you actually did. If you focus on a daily goal and you're trying to flex it online and do all this stuff, it's a really, really slippery slope that probably most artists will fail at. Yeah, in my opinion.
If there's anything I'm like learning in comics, there's one thing I still haven't learned, but I'm working on it. But there's two things: communication. David could tell you this. I'm terrible at communicating with the people I'm working with. That is such a huge, huge key to keeping work and getting work, and the other thing is just finish. Like so many times, like it doesn't, you're so precious over these very minute things that people don't generally care about, but you do. And honestly, the editor just needs it done, so just finish it and do it better on the next one, but that's in the old school system where you're cranking out monthly stuff. I mean, now you kind of have to give yourself deadlines, and force yourself to finish that stuff.
I like that though. I'm kind of getting excited about that idea because it takes some of the pressure and thought out of it. It's like if I go, I need to have Blaster Kid done in 3 months, no matter what, and it's gonna put a fire under my ass. And even if if the deadline slips like a week or two, it'll get your ass moving. And Kelsey, when we've talked a lot about how we like comic books that were actually done on a schedule, you know what I mean? Like there's monthly books.
Those are the ones we loved. They were all done in like 3 weeks, 2 weeks, Yeah.
So this is a great question too. How do you guys maintain focus, and how many hours in a day can you keep focus? Let me answer this first really fast because I have a really funny story I can tell. So I used to literally, my attention span was like 6 minutes. And I want that to sink in for a second. I would try to like learn something or focus on like something, and I would look at the clock and go, okay, how long did I just like check my Twitter? It wasn't Twitter, but you know what I mean? Like was I
anything? Yeah.
Was I switching a YouTube video? Was I looking around the room? Was I checking my phone? It was 6 minutes. That was how long I could keep my focus. That's terrible. But honestly, I bet there's a lot of people that if you really paid attention and you sit down to do something quote unquote productive, it probably isn't much longer. So, I mentioned before, a lot of times when I start drawing in a day, because I've experienced so many failures drawing, I immediately experience that emotion. Like I feel like I'm failing right out of the gate. And so I have to muscle through probably about 90 minutes worth of drawing before I mellow out. So you're gonna like if you're really serious about doing professional art, I would say you should be trying to draw at least 2 to 3 hours a day if you have a tight schedule. If you can do more, that's great, but anything less than that, it's going to be a very slow burn. So
that kind of goes into the, like, you know, you're asking about those little warm-ups and stuff that I did, those little drawings. That to me is kind of the remedy for that, because sometimes to just jump in on a page is like, there's all these different things you're going, oh man, I got to lay out the panels, and oh man, I got to read the script, and I got to do all these different things. And so, and then it almost becomes like a drudging thing. Even if you like the story, it starts to become work. And so it's like, okay, no athlete actually just goes out and starts playing. They warm up, they practice. They do all these different things even before the game itself.
Yeah,
they're there in like an hour or two before the thing starts, to get ready. So that 2 hour, like you said, 90 minutes to an hour to maybe even 2 hours of just free drawing time, I think puts you in the mind of work mode or creating something. So I think that's something that, this individual that asked, that's something you can add to your schedule if it's not already there. Put that in there, give yourself time to, and then take breaks, man.
Even looking at other artists sometimes can give you that same result where your gears are turning at that point.
Exactly. But even while you're drawing, you put in that 3 hours, get up, go outside, get some air, man, and then come back in and get back to it. But you have to, there's that focus time, but then even in that focus time, you have to get up, move.
Oh yeah.
Get, go outside, just do something real quick. Not even talking like for an hour, but just like for a moment, just to kind of break the monotony.
I just heard the Japanese, I think it was Kayfabe was talking about this, which was actually really interesting, but they would talk about the Japanese have a timer, and they'll do a 1 hour of intense focused work, no distractions. And then they'll take 10 minutes to do anything else, Oh, no, it wasn't Kayfabe. It was the Corridor Digital guys. I think they were talking about time and office and stuff. But that really kind of got me thinking. But I mean, I don't. Sometimes I have issues with focus. Like usually if it's like a really good YouTube day and like everybody's got good videos, and I'm just like one after the other, and then I'm tired for some reason. And I can't, But honestly, if I have this thing where if I'm sitting here, generally, unless I'm on a live stream, because it's really hard to split my focus. But if I'm sitting here, doing, at all, I try to keep my hand moving, I'm drawing something, so that things are getting done, because I know that in 5 minutes, I'm going to have to get up and go do something. I'm up and down like all day long, and, so I don't know, but I tell you what, it's like it is an issue and it's not an issue. It's hard to get into that zone when I'm having to like jump up and do stuff, but
what helps with me too, while I'm drawing, I'll listen to audiobooks.
Yeah.
So that kind of keeps you, particularly audiobooks. Like I like listening to, fantasy or, some action or some horror or something like that. It just kind of keep my mind. Because even though you're listening to it, you're still in a state of creative, because you have to visualize what you're listening to. So so you're still in the mindset of creating something, and I think that will help.
My new thing is I'm actually trying to embrace the silence. I always have noise. I have noise. There's people talking. There's TV going. There's music. There's always some kind of noise, and then I watched this guy. He's a famous French comic book artist, and his stuff is hanging in museums and stuff. I forget his name, but I watched this thing of him drawing, and he did the whole thing just seemingly in one session, drawing, painting, everything, and it was quiet. he had the window open and like birds were chirping and like leaves were flying in onto his table.
I've seen that video. It's I would only be guessing. I don't want to say the name. So do you?
He's one of the big ones. But anyway, it got me thinking about embracing the silence and using that time almost as a meditation. You know,
you can do that too.
Yeah.
Do you guys have thoughts on automatic drawing? I'm assuming that's the Kim Jong-gi thing. Is that what he means? Automatic drawing.
I was like, I wasn't sure what that was. I didn't know.
Yeah, is that just kind of like free drawing, whatever comes out of your hand kind of thing, not really thinking about it, almost like automatic writing where you just start writing letters and eventually your psyche will start phrasing sentences? You know,
the video you're talking about is Inky Bilal. That's right, I've seen it. It's Inky Bilal.
He does
kind of
doors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, like I would say that a majority of the time when I draw, I'm doing automatic drawing, but I'm sketching it. I don't know if you mean starting with like finished things, but I prefer to make stuff up out of my head, honestly, than I don't have the patience to reference things. I don't have the patience to copy stuff, honestly.
David says autoerotic drawing.
Oh. But yeah, I mean, Finch talked about that. It's funny because I was saying to my patrons that I had a day, it was a few days ago, but I was able to listen to like 5 of David's tutorial videos, the shorter ones that are like 30 minutes. And man, he said so much stuff that it's totally like how I think about it too. But David's got a very, very solid foundation. I mean, but you know, he says he doesn't really have the patience to draw with reference, and he prefers to encourage people to draw out of their heads. I mean, it's a combination of the both. You can't just make stuff up if you really don't have any sort of structure, but it's a good direction to head.
They do. There's tons of comics with, you know, what is it? The Ford BS, you know, like there's always some car that looks like a bloopy something. It's just car,
right?
You know,
that's kind of like, as long as you have like the bare bones of something, then you can deconstruct it. I think that's, you know, the benefit of looking at the reference, you know, maybe once or twice. I remember Jim Lee said, he said, man, I can draw a Glock 9mm because I've drawn it so many times.
Yeah.
You know, so now, you know, I can say that, you know, I can draw certain things automatic without having to really reference anything. And now if I want to make it a futuristic something, you know, then I can. It'll still look like it's still within the universe of possibility. You know, look something so crazy far out there.
I guess I do a certain level of automatic drawing in general because like I usually don't think thoroughly what I'm trying to do. I'll have an instinct, you know, like I want, you know, a full shot of a character. I want head to toe, you know, and my brain starts running through all the issues and problems with that, logos, you know, point of view, what is the audience looking at, and you kind of construct all that. It kind of help it. But when I actually start drawing, it just kind of does whatever it wants, you know, and I'm usually forcing it into a box, you know, so I don't know. It's probably not the same thing, you know.
I wouldn't mind. That'd be something that's kind of cool.
I posted a bunch of drawings that I did on Instagram this morning. All of that stuff. I had no goal really of what I was going to do. But yeah, I mean, I think I get what he's saying. He's like create sort of like imagery just sort of on the fly. I mean, you know,
subconscious kind of.
Yeah, I mean, if you're even sitting down just to design a character, but you really don't know what the character is going to look like. I mean, it's kind of the same idea.
That was the whole idea of Mobius. I mean, Jean Giraud, if you go look at the work under that name, usually Blueberry, it's very structured, you know, and very like if referenced. I mean, I don't know how referenced he is, but it looks spot on to me. And then you see the Mobius side of him, which was it was created to explore his subconscious, you know, and that was the whole idea. And he actually created a whole other persona to explore that, you know, which I guess would kind of trick your brain into thinking, you know, this is a different thing entirely, you know, maybe, I don't know, maybe I should come up with that. Kelseyist. No, I need another name.
So we're heading into 2.5 hours. We should wrap it up.
Right.
first off, I want to thank everyone. Honestly, the chat was very well behaved. It flew off the rails there for a little bit, which was a little disappointing. But you know, look, racism isn't going to fly on my channel. I don't want people talking shit to my guests. I've said a million times on my channel before all this sort of comic drama started, everyone's welcome on my channel, but I focus on art. It's like I want to talk to artists. It's like if you draw sexy girls, that's fine. If you draw stuff that's very, very serious, that's fine. I'm interested in just talking to people and see what makes them tick with art. And so, you know, you have to understand that it's like I might be crossing some sort of lines that people have out there. But look, the reality is this is a channel about art and creativity and just really trying to encourage people to draw and do stuff. So,
dude, most of us, especially the people that are on this panel today, you cut us, we bleed ink. You know, it's a common bond that we have as comic book people, and I feel that way with the fans as well. I mean, we're all interested in this thing, this form. You know, let's love our mutual love for it. You know,
it's totally. Well, it's you know, I want to have Sandra Hope on this show, and so people better act like a gentleman when I bring her.
No kid.
She's like my sister, but
I'll try my best.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to pencilers. Like I said, I'm very determined to do that show. So if you guys know, one in particular, I have a couple of patrons that are sort of fit the category of like kind of less than 100 sort of published pages, and I really want to see like how they feel right now. Do they feel enthusiastic about the future? Are they frustrated with where they're at? You know, like how does it feel? Because there's, you know, you kind of go through like chunks of sort of the comic book like experience.
Love it.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, that was really interesting. So Canaan, first off, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Dan Fraga, thank you for coming on. Even though he's been having surgery and he has to go in for more. We've got Eric Canete. We had Ethan Van Sciver. I don't know what is he the most controversial comic
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But he's still just a comic book guy.
Yeah.
I feel like we had more guests. Was there more people? I'm like, am I forgetting someone? I'm like,
me, baby.
Oh well, you of course. So Canaan, please send me links to your stuff. But I want to actually thank all the super chats really fast. I had to write it down. We had a lot, and I really appreciate the super chats. So we had Nick, ARTIENE 87. We had Hunter, David. We had Albino Thunderbuns, who did a $50 super chat promoting Arc Athena, Eric Canete's book, which like I said, I'll have links to everyone. We had Visible Body, Dancing Dog, who has a very, very funny avatar. It's a dog dancing, believe it or not. Replicator and David Bowser did 2 super chats.
Nice.
So again, thank you guys all very, very much. And
yeah, David Williams is another guy you got to get on here.
I asked him multiple times in the chat to come on, and I also, Dave, you could have come on. I dropped the link, and Shelby Robertson was in the chat, and I wanted him to come in. Monstrous, I remember seeing Monstrositus. I'm nearly sure I saw you on one of Dan Fraga's Fragtober drawings, right? You did a Fragtober or 2 of those. Those were very fun to watch. I enjoyed seeing everyone draw.
I really enjoyed that. I'm hoping another Fragtober happens this year. That was a great time.
Well, Kelsey and I have talked about doing some drawing videos where we have a few ideas for some different sort of event type drawing things, but other people could participate too. I think it'll be real fun, and it's just something like challenges and like live drawing or live or pre-recorded live. Yeah, your stuff is cool, man. Keep up with it, Monstrositus X. Yeah, thank you guys all for the show. Hopefully I don't get canceled.
That was fun.
We walk away.
No such thing. Just don't allow it.
I'm uncancelable.
There you go. I don't pay attention to any of that trash.
I know, right? It's disappointing because, like I said, I just want to talk about drawing.
Yeah.
Can't people just talk about drawing? The fuck.
Hey, well, you know, you always get that out of me, man. I'm about art.
Heck yeah.
Is relative to me.
Honestly, most of us, we talk a big game about not wanting to, like, I don't want to talk about it. And then, even Ethan is like, I don't want to talk about it, but look at him, man. He gets all into it, starts talking about Bogdanov and guys, everybody, you can't help it. We love it.
I was always interested in the Boland. But what's funny is because I remember Ethan's art when he was doing Impulse, which isn't really his first work, but he had like kind of a McFarlane, Sam Keefe kind of thing, the big weird like soft serve, wavy hair, funny stuff. Yeah, Kelsey gets canceled every time he's not on the Jack show.
I'm used to it.
So, well, we're gonna end the broadcast. We can say goodbye in the private room.
Let's get private with this.
Thanks everyone for tuning in, and Kelsey and I might be back for a super fun Sunday. I don't know. Are you down for a super fun Sunday?
Yeah, I'm gonna try. I'm finally getting some of this stuff off my plate, and I'm not gonna take on too much at one time anymore, just so I can come and hang out with everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna sign up. We're gonna end the broadcast. Yeah. Thank you guys all, everyone that showed up. I really appreciate it, and smash the like on the way out, and then also support all these fine folk with their books.
Absolutely.
So, Monstrositus, if you're drawing comic books, you might be a good person to have on the Under 100 show.
Oh yeah, what's that?
That's the show.
Yeah, that might be fun. Get some up and comers and see what's going on in the
their
experience be fun
with it. The fear, the excitement, the roller coaster ride that is drawing comic books. So, all right, we're going to end it. Bye. See you all later. And you guys hang out for 1 sec.
Right. Love you, gang.